Chapter 551. This villain is getting better and better at instigating others. Wu Ming was very happy in his heart. He had never thought that one day he would be able to get the support of a heavenly being. With the support of heavenly beings, it would be easier for him to ascend to that position. After hearing Wu Ming's words, Yuan Tian said, "Your Highness, the disciples of Tianwu sect have already arrived near Yanqing. As long as the tyrant leaves Yanqing, I will immediately summon the disciples to attack Yanqing. By then, Yanqing will definitely become our bag." "Something in it?" Wu Ming asked. "Sect Master Yuan, I am a little curious. How many sects have you formed alliances with?" Yuan Tian replied, 15 sections. Wu Ming thought for a while and continued, "Sect Master Yuan, these sect forces should have their own ideas. They may not be willing to choose me as the new emperor." Yuan Tian smiled and said, "Your Highness, you don't have to worry about this. We have already agreed that these sect forces support Tianwu Zong." Hearing Yuan Tian's answer, Wu Ming felt relieved. What he was most worried about was that if the ideal king of those sect forces was someone else, the royal family of Daiyu, or someone from a certain force, how would he end up? Isn't it likely that he will be eliminated? Wu Ming said at this time, "Sect Master Yuan, I promise you that if Great Xia is really destroyed, I will ascend the throne and proclaim myself emperor. From now on, I and your Tianwu sect will rule the world together." Yuan Tian smiled and said, "What are you saying, Your Highness? Our sect is not very interested in the secular world. The disciples of our Tianwu sect only want to attain Taoism and become immortals. If it weren't for the tyrant who bullied others too much and wanted to dissolve all sects in the world, we might not have been born. Your Highness, don't worry. Once the tyrant is eliminated and Daxia is destroyed, our Tianwu sect will return to where we are." Hearing Yuan Tian's assurance, Wu Ming was very happy. If this was true, it would be great. At this time, the corners of Wu Ming's mouth raised slightly, revealing a proud smile. He thought in his heart that Lu Chen had done his own evil and would not survive. It's not good to touch anyone. He actually dares to declare war on all the sects in the world. He really doesn't know how to live or die. Now retribution is coming. He wanted to see how long this Lu Chen could live. Later, Yuan Tian and Wu Ming discussed their plans, when to take action, and how to control Yanqing. They already had a complete plan. Now it's time for Lu Chen to leave Yanqing. Afternoon. The scorching sunshine was shining on the earth. Lu Chen stood at the door of the royal study, facing the scorching sun, with his hands behind his back, as if he was thinking about something. At this time, the iceberg beauty guard on the side said, "Your Majesty, it's quite sunny outside. I'd better ask someone to prepare a parasol for you, right?" Lu Chen smiled slightly and then said, "No need, I just want to bask in the sunday. I've been staying in my room every day lately, and I'm almost getting moldy." Seeing what Lu Chen said, Bai Qingqing didn't say anything more. After a while, a female guard came to Lu Chen and said, "Your Majesty, Dean Xia wants to see you." Now that Luoyang Sword Sect and Taishu Temple have been disbanded, Daxia has established 2 martial arts academies, and Xia Yuan is the dean of one of the martial arts academies. Lu Chen said, "Let him come over." Soon, Xia Yuan came to Lu Chen and said, "See Your Majesty, long live Your Majesty." Lu Chen said and said, "No courtesy. Dean Xia, how are things going?" Xia Yuan immediately replied, "The yin and yang mirror that Your Majesty gave to Wei Chen is very easy to use. No matter which sect force it is, it can't identify Wei Chen's identity." Hearing this, Lu Chen hummed and smiled, and then said, "The gift I prepared for them will definitely give them a big surprise when the time comes." Lu Chen continued to ask, "How many powerful heavenly beings are there among those sects?" Xia Yuan replied, "Except for the humble ministers, there are only 2 powerful heavenly beings." Lu Chen thought in his heart that if there were only 2 powerful celestial beings, when Yongxiangxian arrived, they would be able to directly eliminate those sect forces without even using Yanqing's formation. I just don't know if Yongxiangxian will come. Anyway, he has already sent a letter to Suanya Palace. Yongxiangxian probably also saw it. The next step depends on Yongxiangxian's attitude. To be honest, Lu Chen felt that Yongxiangxian would probably not come, because Suanya Palace was also a sect force, and Lu Chen wanted to disband the sect forces in the world. Wouldn't that mean that Lu Chen would also disband Suanya Palace? As the founder of Suanya Palace, how could Yongxiangxian allow Lu Chen to disband Suanya Palace? In fact, Lu Chen had no intention of touching Suanya Palace. If Suanya Palace was touched, he would definitely offend Yongxiangxian. Lu Chen, I don't want to offend his master. Just when Lu Chen was wondering if Yongxian would come, a female guard came to Lu Chen and said, Your Majesty, concubine Chen and Yongxian have arrived in Yanqing. Hearing this, Lu Chen was startled, and then the corners of his mouth raised slightly. It seemed that what Chen Wanrong said last time was true. Chen Wanrong said that Suanya Palace would fully support him. This should be Yongxiangxian's manner. Lu Chen then said to Xia Yuan, continue to win over those sect forces and try not to let them see the clues. Xia Yuan immediately saluted and said, Your Majesty, please rest assured, I will act with caution. Okay, there's nothing to do. Just go and do your work first. Lu Chen said. Yes, Wei Chen is resigning. After the words fell, Xia Yuan turned around and left. After Xia Yuan left, Lu Chen walked directly towards Yunrong Palace. He planned to go to Yunrong Palace to wait for the arrival of Yun Xianxian and Chen Wanrong. However, as soon as Lu Chen arrived at Yunrong Palace, he found that the maids were busy going back and forth. Lu Chen also vaguely heard the voices of several women talking. This villain is getting better and better at instigating others. If you want to dissolve the world's sects and dare to invite me here, you are not afraid that I will pull him off the throne first. This cold and chilly voice was obviously Yun Xiangxian's voice. Lu Chen immediately walked towards the courtyard. Master, I believe you will never do this. Yun Xianxian was a celestial being after all. How could she not sense that Lu Chen had arrived at the door of the yard? It was obvious that what Yun Xianxian just said was meant for Lu Chen. After hearing Lu Chen's voice, the girl in the courtyard turned to look in the direction of the courtyard door. Yun Xianxian said indifferently, Oh, are you so sure that my master will not pull you down from the throne? Lu Chen said with a smile, Disciple has no intention of disbanding Suanya Palace. Master has no reason to do so. Hearing Lu Chen's answer, Yun Xianxian asked expressionlessly, You want to disband the sects all over the world, but you don't disband Suanya Palace. How will those disbanded sects treat you then? Lu Chen said calmly, Xianyu Palace has been on my side from the beginning. The position is clear. Even if I don't disband Suanya Palace, no one will say anything. Besides, I am the holy son of Suanya Palace, and the palace master of Suanya Palace is still my noble concubine. With these two identities, who dares to say anything? End of chapter. Chapter 552 I will only help you this time. The owners of Suanya Palace have become the emperor's women. This does not mean that Suanya Palace is the emperor's back garden. After all the sects in the world are wiped out, who will dare to gossip about it? Even a fool can see that after the emperor has eliminated the sect forces in the world, the next thing to do is probably to establish Suanya Palace as the state religion. After hearing Lu Chen's words, Yun Xianxian said calmly, From my perspective, this is just your delaying strategy. After all the sect forces in the world are eliminated, I'm afraid the next one you have to deal with is Suanya Palace. In fact, Yun Xianxian had already guessed that Lu Chen would not disband Suanya Palace on the way to Yanqing. Now Lu Chen is her disciple, the holy son of Suanya Palace, and the owner of Suanya Palace is Lu Chen's woman. Chen is in control of Suanya Palace, so why should he disband Suanya Palace? Keep Swanyu Palace, and if there is anything inconvenient to do in the future, Swanyu Palace can be done. It's just that Yun Xianxian is a little unhappy. He clearly created Swanyu Palace, but now it belongs to this evil disciple. As the founder, he became the thug of this evil disciple, and even came to help Lu Chen clean up the sect forces in the world. Lu Chen said with a smile, "Look at what Master said. Master still doesn't know what kind of person the disciple is. How could the disciple do such a ruthless and unjust thing?" Yun Xianxian said calmly, "People's hearts are separated from each other, no one can say for sure." Having said that, Yun Xianxian did not continue to waste time with Lu Chen. "Tell me, what are you going to do this time?" Lu Chen replied, "I plan to lead the troops directly to Daqian, and the matters in Yanqing will be troublesome to the master." Hearing this, Yungxian Xian Liu frowned slightly, and then said, "What, you still want to be a hands-off shopkeeper? You invited me here, and then you ran away." Lu Chen said, "Master, it's not like I don't know that the restrictions in the foggy world are about to disappear. I must complete the unification of this world before the restrictions in the foggy world disappear. Only in this way can I integrate the resources of this world and prepare for the future. Prepare for enemies in the misty world. Time is tight and the task is heavy. I must seize every minute and every second." After hearing what Lu Chen said, Yun Xianxian said expressionlessly, "Even if you unify the world, if you don't have a more powerful trump card, you may not be able to resist the invasion of those powerful people in the misty world in the future." Lu Chen said, "What Master said is a bit shocking. Isn't this to increase the enemy's prestige and destroy one's own ambition? Master, please believe me. I will definitely be able to block the enemies in the mist world and drive all the invading enemies out of this world." Yun Xianxian said nonchalantly, "Whether you can drive those enemies out has nothing to do with me. Once the restrictions in the mist world disappear, I might go directly to the mist world. Although the space in the mist world is unstable and there are no complete rules of heaven, the mist world has one of the biggest advantages compared to this world, that is, the aura of the mist world is much more abundant than this world, and the mist world will not suppress her strength. After she went to the mist world, she was able to regain her strength faster." Yun Xianxian said at this time, "Tell me, how many heavenly beings are there among the sect forces coming this time?" Lu Chen replied, "There are only 2 heavenly beings." Hearing this, Yun Xianxian said angrily, "What do you want me to do with these 2 heavenly beings? You have so many heavenly beings around you, why can't you deal with these 2 heavenly beings?" Lu Chen said with a smile, "I'm just in case, and I will take 2 heavenly beings with me when I go south. Besides, no one can say for sure whether there are other hidden beings in this world. If there are other hidden beings in this world, if I am not fully prepared, when I come back, Yanqing will fall. It's in the hands of those sect forces." Yun Xianxian then said calmly, "I will only help you this time." Lu Chen immediately said, "Thank you, Master." After Lu Chen finished speaking, Yun Xiangxian's figure disappeared instantly and went directly to the room Lu Chen prepared for her to meditate. After Yun Xianxian left, Lu Chen came directly to Chen Wanrong and Lin Wanyun, then raised his hands unscrupulously and hugged the 2 beauties' soft waists. "Ladies, you haven't seen me for so long. Do you miss me?" Their cheeks were slightly red, but neither of them answered. In fact, they didn't separate for long, but they both really missed this bad thing in their hearts. Lu Chen continued, "We haven't seen each other for so long. I must catch up with the 2 ladies tonight." Chen Wanrong ignored Lu Chen's words and asked, "Your Majesty, the plague in Daqian has not been resolved yet. Do you really want to fight it yourself?" Lu Chen smiled and said, "My wife is worried about me again." Having said this, Lu Chen raised his hand, scratched Chen Wanrong's beautiful nose, and then said, "Don't worry, I know it well. If there was no way to eliminate the plague, I wouldn't have been able to attack Dagon so quickly." Hearing Lu Chen's answer, Chen Wanrong felt relieved. As long as there was a way to eliminate the plague, she was afraid that Lu Chen would also be infected by the plague. At this time, Chen Wanrong looked into Lu Chen's eyes and asked seriously, "You really won't disband Swanyu Palace, right?" Chen Wanrong has very deep feelings for Swanyu Palace, and she does not want to see Swanyu Palace end up with the same fate as other sect forces. Like Yun Xian, she was also worried that after Lu Chen eliminated all the sect forces, Swanyu Palace would be the next one he wanted to deal with. Seeing that Chen Wanrong was also worried about this problem, Lu Chen smiled slightly and said, "There is no need for me to take action against Swanyu Palace. Master will leave this world from now on. Swanyu Palace will be yours by then, and you are mine. People, equivalent to Swanyu Palace itself, belong to me, so why should I disband my own forces?" Listening to Lu Chen's explanation, Chen Wanrong still looked at Lu Chen's eyes. She did not see any intention of lying in Lu Chen's eyes. I think Lu Chen was talking about what was in his heart. Lu Chen then grabbed Chen Wanrong and Lin Wanyun's waist and walked towards Chen Wanrong's bedroom. As he walked, he said, "Okay, let's not talk about this anymore. We haven't seen each other for so long. Let's go to the room to catch up on the past." The reminiscence Lu Chen mentioned this time was indeed just a serious reminiscence. He did not do anything to Chen Wanrong and the others. He had other things to do during the day. After talking to Chen Wanrong and the others for a while, he returned to the imperial study. At dusk, Old Yanchenj, a certain restaurant. The atmosphere in the restaurant seemed very dull. The first and second floors of the restaurant were full of people, but no one spoke at this moment. After an unknown amount of time, an old man wearing a grey robe entered the restaurant. At this time, an old man's voice came from the second floor, "Sect Master Yuan, you are finally here." Yuan Tian smiled and said, "I'm sorry, I went to meet with some small sect leaders and I'm late." End of chapter. Chapter 553 The Cold Air That Attacks Lu Chen. After hearing Yuan Tian's words, the old man who just spoke on the second floor said calmly, "What good are those small sects and what role can they play? Does Sect Master Yuan take them too seriously?" Hearing what the old man said, Yuan Tian touched his beard and said with a smile, "Hey, that's not what you said. We are the same sect that is being persecuted. They also want to help, so naturally we should accept it. Besides, the strength of these small sects is not weak. If they are gathered together, they can also form a huge force." At this time, another old man on the second floor said, "Sect leader Yuan, you'd better hurry up and tell us your plan. Both Lao Cheng and Zozo want to know what the plan is." After hearing this, Yuan Tian kicked off his legs and jumped to the second floor. At this time, two old men were sitting in front of a table on the second floor, one wearing white clothes and the other in a golden robe. The man wearing white clothes is named Si Yahua, the leader of the Yunlin sect, and a heavenly being. The person wearing golden clothes is the leader of the Jinyu sect, named Zhou Yangping, who is also a heavenly being. Yunlin sect and Jinyu sect are not well known in this world. Many people have never heard of the names of these two sects, and they have always kept a low profile. If it weren't for Emperor Xia's words to eliminate sect forces from the world, these two hidden sect forces would not have come out. After Yuan Tian came to the two old men, he sat down on a seat in the middle without hesitation. The three of them seemed to form a tripod. Yuan Tian then said, "I have decided to make Wu Ming, the second prince of Dao, the emperor. I wonder if there is anyone else who would recommend him." Hearing this question, Si Yahua, the head of the Yunlin sect, said calmly, "Whoever is chosen as the emperor is the same to us. We don't care who becomes the emperor. What we care about is whether the new emperor listens to us. I don't want to see another arrogant and overestimated emperor appear." After Si Yahua finished speaking, Zhou Yangping, the leader of the Golden Feather sect, also said, "I have the same attitude as sect leader Si." As long as the new emperor is obedient enough and doesn't mess around, it will be the same no matter who becomes the emperor. Yuan Tian said, since you two have no objection to this, then after we get rid of the tyrant, we will support Wu Ming to ascend the throne. At this time, Si Yehua said, Sect Master Yuan, put aside the matter of the new emperor for now. You should tell us your plan. Yuan Tian said calmly, the old man's plan is very simple. The tyrant can only mobilize 4 heavenly beings. According to reliable information, if he wants to attack Daqian, he must take away at least 2 heavenly beings, and there is another heavenly being. People are sitting in Daiyou capital city. At that time, there will only be 1 heavenly being in Yanqing. The 3 of us only need to join forces to deal with that heavenly being. After removing that heavenly being, we can control the entire Yanqing and control the tyrant's wives, concubines, and children. At that time, we can declare to the world that the tyrant violates the laws of heaven, is cruel, and will not be tolerated by heaven. We call on all the oppressed forces to come out and join forces to overthrow the entire Great Xia. I believe that at that time, many forces will stand up and work with us to overthrow the tyrant's rule. After hearing what Yuan Tian said, Si Yehua said, I heard that the most powerful people in Daxia are not those heavenly beings, but the tyrant himself. Even if we deal with 1 heavenly being in advance, I'm afraid it's not the tyrant's opponent. Yuan Tian said calmly, Sect Master Si is overly worried. According to the information obtained by the old man, the reason why the tyrant is powerful is not because he is powerful, but because he has a powerful spiritual weapon and has a steady stream of help from heavenly beings behind his back. He delivers spiritual power so that he can use that spiritual weapon. If there is no heavenly being, there is only a chance that he will be counterattacked when he uses that spiritual weapon. By the way, I almost forgot to tell you some good news. Zhou Yangping asked, what good news? Yuan Tian said, I have secretly contacted Queen Yu. Queen Yu has now broken through to the realm of heaven and human. She has understood the meaning of the sword. Her strength is not comparable to that of ordinary heaven and human. The most important thing is that she has decided stand with us. Hearing this, Si Yehua and Zhou Yangping were startled, and then looked at each other. Both of them were very surprised. They did not expect such good news. With Yu Huang, a heavenly being who understands the sword's intention, joining them, there will be 4 heavenly beings on their side. If one of the heavenly beings on Lu Chen's side is eliminated, Lu Chen will only have 3 heavenly beings left. What's more, they will still control Lu Chen's wife, concubines, and children, and they can use Lu Chen's wives, concubines, and children to get into trouble. For a moment, both Zhou Yangping and Si Yehua felt that they had a chance to win. At this moment, Si Yehua suddenly thought of something, and then asked, you said Emperor Yu has decided to side with us? Then wouldn't you offend Emperor Yu by supporting the 2nd Prince of Dahu to ascend to the throne? Yuan Tian said, Emperor Yu is a celestial being and is very difficult to control. If we let her be the new emperor, maybe one day she will have the same thoughts as the current tyrant, and then we may have to get together again. So I promised Emperor Yu that as long as she could overthrow Daxia and get rid of the tyrant, all of Daiyu's land would be returned to her from now on, and half of Dahu's land would also be assigned to Daiyu to rule. She finally agreed. Si Yehua said, Sect Master Yuan's method is good. If Emperor Yu is a heavenly being, she cannot control the world. If she controls the world, I am afraid she will become a tyrant again. There is no problem in splitting into 2 dynasties. The 3 of them then discussed more details of the operation, and now Lu Chen was asked to leave Yanqing. Late at night. After a busy day, Lu Chen got up from his chair and stretched. Bai Qingqing was about to ask Lu Chen which concubine's room he should go to tonight, when Lu Chen said, I'm going to Yunrong Palace tonight. Chen Wanrong and Lin Wanyun had just returned from Suanyu Palace. Of course, they had to have a good chat with them. During the day, they just talked for a while, and he did nothing. Tonight, they had to have a good exchange. After hearing what Lu Chen said, Bai Qingqing said respectfully, "Yes, Your Majesty." Immediately, Lu Chen went to Yunrong Palace, but as soon as he entered Yunrong Palace, a cold air came straight towards him. Lu Chen was suddenly attacked by the biting cold, and his body couldn't help but tremble. He immediately understood what was going on. Then Lu Chen said with a smile, "Master, Rong and Wanyun have just come back, so naturally I want to catch up with them." As soon as Lu Chen finished speaking, a wave of cold air came straight towards him again, and his feet were frozen by a layer of ice. Seeing this scene, Lu Chen no longer hesitated, he transformed and instantly arrived at Yun Xiangxian's room. At this time, Yun Xianxian was wearing a light blue dress with a white undershirt underneath. She was sitting quietly on the bed meditating, with an icy cold air exuding from her body. She looked like a fairy descended from the earth. End of chapter. Chapter 554, Evil Disciple, you came here to do it in the middle of the night. After Lu Chen entered Yun Xiangxian's room, she did not stand up or open her eyes. She said expressionlessly, "Evil disciple, why are you coming here in the middle of the night?" Hearing this, Lu Chen laughed. His master was really interesting. She had clearly attacked him with cold air just now, but now she asked him what he was doing here. "Master, didn't you ask me to come?" Yun Xianxian asked calmly, "When did I ask you to come to my room?" Lu Chen immediately said, "That may be the disciple's misunderstanding." Since the master did not ask the disciple to come, the disciple left. "Master, please rest early. Disciple will leave first." Having said this, Lu Chen was about to turn around and leave, but as soon as he turned around, Yun Xiangxian's cold voice came again, and a blast of cold air hit him, directly freezing Lu Chen's feet. "Wait a minute, since you're already here, help me recover." Just as Lu Chen was about to say something, Yun Xianxian continued to speak, "Why, do you want me to help you in vain without giving you any benefits?" Hearing this, Lu Chen said with a smile, "How could it be? Originally, helping the master regain his strength is what the disciple should do. The disciple also wants to help the master restore his strength as soon as possible, but the master seems to have some concerns about this." Hearing what Lu Chen said, Yun Xianxian instantly understood the meaning of Lu Chen's words. Yun Xianxian then said calmly, "Don't think that I don't know what you are planning. You'd better put down your petty thoughts. It is impossible for me to agree." Lu Chen said with a smile, "The disciple didn't say anything. How does master know what the disciple is planning?" Yun Xianxian did not continue talking nonsense with Lu Chen. She directly raised her hand, and Lu Chen's body flew up, and flew to sit in front of Yun Xianxian. Lu Chen continued, "Master, aren't you worried that after the restrictions in the mist world disappear in the future, the enemies coming out will be stronger than you? If you don't recover your strength as soon as possible, what if you encounter a strong enemy who is not their opponent? Manage." Seeing that Lu Chen, the evil disciple, had not given up, Yun Xianxian snorted coldly and said, "This is not something you should consider." As he spoke, a cold spiritual energy went straight to Lu Chen's body. The next moment, Lu Chen's clothes turned into pieces of shattered cloth and fell everywhere on the soft couch. Immediately afterwards, Yun Xianxian stared at Lu Chen's eyes, and her pupils emitted a lavender shimmer. After a while, Lu Chen's inner desire was evoked. Lu Chen didn't care. He had many women in his harem now, and many of them were not pregnant, so it would be the same if he won Yun Xianxian later. When his realm reaches the heavenly realm, he will slowly take care of Yun Xianxian, this cold fairy. While the two were practicing the dragon and phoenix yin and yang kung fu, Lu Chen asked, "Master, I'm a little curious, what is the advanced world of immortality you are like?" Hearing Lu Chen's question, Yun Xianxian said expressionlessly, "You are also from the advanced world of immortality. Don't you know what the world of immortality is like? Today's immortal Yungxian has basically concluded that Lu Chen was sent to a lower world for training from a certain cultivating world. If Lu Chen was just a person from a lower world who came to this world by accident, then he would not have achieved so many achievements in such a short period of time. It is impossible for those heavenly beings to seek refuge with Lu Chen. Yun Xianxian could see that those heavenly beings were extremely respectful to Lu Chen. As a heavenly being, he should be so respectful to Lu Chen, a pseudo-celestial being. This was unjustifiable. The only possibility is that Lu Chen's status is relatively noble, and those heavenly beings are just subordinates prepared for Lu Chen by the family behind Lu Chen. Generally, when the children of aristocratic families in the world of immortality go to other worlds to train, their families will arrange many subordinates for them to prevent them from being in any danger. Lu Chen said, "Master may have misunderstood me. The world I was originally in was also a world with almost no aura." Yun Xianxian snorted lightly and said nothing. She obviously didn't believe what Lu Chen said. If this guy came from a lower world, he would have been killed long ago based on the things he did in this world. He has struggled with so many things in this world, and the fact that he is still alive now is enough to prove how hard his background is and how powerful his identity and background are. Lu Chen continued, "Master, I heard that it is very difficult to leave this world. It seems that it is possible to leave this world only by controlling the way of heaven in this world. And the aura of this world can only transport one person away." Hearing Lu Chen's words, Yun Xianxian raised his eyebrows, and then asked, "Who told you?" Lu Chen said, "I heard about it from Emperor Yu, who also heard about it from the barbarian goddess. The barbarian goddess is also an immortal cultivator who fell into this world from a high-level immortal world." Yun Xianxian said calmly, "She has a pretty good idea. Although this world is just a world with incomplete rules, it is a separate world after all. Trying to control the heavenly ways of this world is nothing more than a dream. I don't know how many years have passed since I came to this world. I haven't tried any method of leaving this world. I'm still trapped in this world. If you want to leave this world, the best way is to go to the misty world and find a space gap. Through the space gap, you might be able to teleport to another world. If the other side of the space gap is a world with abundant spiritual energy, it will speed up my recovery. Once I regain my original strength, I will be able to return to my own world." Hearing Yun Xianxian's words, Lu Chen thought to himself, "I'm afraid it's not easy to find this gap in space, otherwise why would Mu Yungzi prefer to have his strength suppressed and come to this world?" Lu Chen continued, "I also heard that as long as the strength reaches the 10,000th Dharma realm, the space channel can also be opened." Yungxian laughed, and then said, "The 10,000th Dharma realm? What you think is more beautiful, not to mention that all the spiritual energy in this world cannot support a 10,000th Dharma realm, even the aura of the mist world may not be able to support it. Come out of a realm of 10,000 Dharma. Unless..." Having said this, Yun Xianxian glanced at Lu Chen meaningfully. Lu Chen asked curiously, "Unless what?" Yun Xianxian said coldly, "Unless there is a strong person above the 10,000 Dharma realm behind you, who takes the initiative to open the space channel to this world." Lu Chen smiled faintly, "Master still doesn't seem to believe that I was just an ordinary person before." Lu Chen did not continue to dwell on this. He then asked, "Since the space gap in the mist world leads to other worlds, why doesn't the barbarian goddess use this method to leave?" Yun Xianxian replied, "Because the space in the mist world is unstable, if you leave this world through the gap in space, you are likely to be torn apart by the space, and you will die 9 times out of 10. End of this chapter. Chapter 555. This villain must have done it on purpose. Hearing Yun Xianxian's answer, Lu Chen thought to himself, no wonder Mu Yungzi didn't leave through this method, it seemed that he was afraid of death. Mu Yungzi is afraid of death, so isn't Yun Xianxian afraid of death? Lu Chen then asked, "Master also knows that the space gap is dangerous, so master still plans to leave through the space gap? Yun Xianxian said, I have no plans to leave immediately. After the restrictions in the mist world disappear, I will go to the mist world to practice while looking for a way to leave this world. If I really can't find a way to leave, I will take the risk of passing through the gap in space. Although Yun Xianxian said so, she actually had a better way in her heart. She has now determined that Lu Chen is a descendant of a certain immortal cultivating family. When the time comes, that cultivating family will definitely send someone to take Lu Chen back. Now she has become Lu Chen's master. If Lu Chen wants to leave this world, he must take her master with him, right? Of course, she didn't put all her hopes on Lu Chen. She would still take the initiative to find a way to leave this world. She already knew what kind of person Lu Chen was. If he wanted Lu Chen to take her out of this world, this lustful man would definitely make some excessive demands. This villain has always been thinking about his body, so he has to guard against it. At this time, Yun Xianxian said, okay, stop talking and concentrate on practicing. At this point, the purple light in Yun Xiangxian's pupils became brighter, and Lu Chen's inner desire expanded infinitely. At this time, the spiritual power of the two people also began to circulate. Not long after, Yun Xianxian felt as if her body was on fire. She used her spiritual power and tried to control her inner thoughts. In her opinion, this is the negative impact caused by witch technique. As long as she can restrain her inner desires, there won't be much of a problem. As time passed, Yun Xianxian finally couldn't hold on anymore. Red clouds appeared on her cold jade face, and her eyes were filled with mist. Seeing the fairy in front of him turning into this appearance, Lu Chen became even more restless and wanted to eat up Yun Xian right now. But Yun Xiangxian didn't give him this chance. The next moment, Yun Xiangxian used a technique similar to transmutation on Lu Chen, and directly sent Lu Chen's entire body to Chen Wanrong's bedroom next door. At this time, Chen Wanrong and Lin Wanyun were holding hands and talking about something, when suddenly a man without any clothes appeared in front of them. Seeing Lu Chen's predicament, the two women were stunned for a moment, but they quickly realized that it was obvious that Lu Chen had just gone to Yun Xiangxian's room and practiced together with Yun Xianxian. Seeing his two wives staring at him so directly, Lu Chen felt a little embarrassed. Wanyun, Rong, are you still not sleeping at this late hour? After the two women came to their senses, they saluted at the same time and said, I have met your majesty. Lu Chen immediately walked up to them, held the two women's shoulders and said, I have said many times that you don't need to salute in front of me. Let's not talk about this anymore. It's already so late now and we should rest. Lu Chen had just been stimulated by Yun Xianxian in the bedroom next door, and now he needed the help of Chen Wanrong and Lin Wanyun. The two women immediately understood what Lu Chen meant, and a blush appeared on their cheeks. Lu Chen then hugged the two of them and walked towards the soft couch to talk about old times. At this moment, the bedroom next door. Yun Xianxian tried hard to calm down the restlessness in her heart. She obviously felt that her strength had recovered a lot, but this restlessness made her feel very uncomfortable, as if she had taken some drug that could make people emotional. Yun Xianxian thought in her heart that it seemed that this technique really couldn't be practiced for a long time. If she practices again next time, she must strictly control the time to prevent herself from completely losing control. She almost lost control just now, but fortunately she sent the evildoer to the next door at the last moment, otherwise once she became unconscious, the evildoer would not know what he would do to her. Thinking of this, Yun Xianxian felt a little scared. In front of this evil disciple, he really couldn't relax for a moment. Just when Yun Xianxian was trying to calm down the restlessness in her heart, the voices of Chen Wanrong and Lin Wanyun suddenly came from next door. The soundproofing effect of Lu Chen's palace was very good. The sound could be transmitted so clearly, it was obviously howling at the top of one's throat. A fierce murderous intention flashed in Yun Xiangxian's eyes. This villain must have done it on purpose. Yongxian quickly exercised his skills again and continued to control the restless spiritual power in his body. However, Yongxian was not having an easy time tonight, which made her a little confused. It seemed that she and Lu Chen had been practicing for longer than this time. She had never been so restless before, so why was the spirit in her body this time? No matter how hard you suppress it, it's hard to calm down. Early the next morning, after Lu Chen woke up in the warm fragrance of Chen Wanrong and Lin Wanyun's soft jade, he took a shower and went directly to the Yajing Hall without much nostalgia. The troop mobilization for the last meeting had been decided. Today's meeting was mainly for Lu Chen to explain some things that officials should pay attention to after he left Yanchange. As soon as the Great Court meeting ended, the confirmed time for Lu Chen to go south immediately reached the ears of the sect forces. As soon as they heard that Lu Chen was finally going south, the sect forces were very excited, thinking that their plan was finally over. It's ready to be implemented. Afternoon. The sun was shining brightly, and two beautiful women were sitting in the pavilion, holding each other's plump bodies. At this time, Li Qingguo gently stroked Wu Yunwan's belly and said softly, "Junwan, after this child is born, you must be good. It looks good, but don't let him have too much contact with that person, lest he learn bad things from him." Hearing this, Wu Yunwan smiled slightly. No matter how bad Lu Chen could be, he was just a little horny. If her child was just a little horny and had no other shortcomings, then she could completely accept it. In this day and age, it's not a big deal for a man to be lustful. In the past, Wu Yunwan held great power and might have been possessive and did not want to share her man with other women, but after spending such a long time with Lu Chen, she no longer had such thoughts. Wu Yunwan said at this time, "Qingguo, the restrictions in the mist world are about to disappear. Do you think we can see our master again?" Li Qingguo said, "Master will probably come back to this world again. When she comes back to this world, if she knows that we have been occupied by that man, she will definitely seek justice for us." Hearing what Li Qingguo said, Wu Yunwan immediately became worried. If their master really came to this world again, wouldn't Lu Chen be in danger? Their master's strength is not just as simple as being in the heaven-human realm. But Wu Yunwan soon calmed down her emotions. There were so many secrets in Lu Chen, a little man, and no one could tell if he had any other trump cards. End of chapter. Chapter 556. I was forced to do that. Wu Yunwan thought in her mind that Lu Chen could arrange a magic circle to resist the strong men of the yin and yang realm, and he also had an earth-level spiritual weapon that could kill the strong men of the heavenly realm. If their master really came, he may not be Lu Chen's opponent. And so far, no one knows what the conditions are for Lu Chen to become a heavenly being. Maybe Lu Chen has already broken through and become a heavenly being before the restrictions in the misty world disappear? Lu Chen is still a pseudo-celestial being, and he already has the strength to fight against the heavenly beings. If Lu Chen becomes a heavenly being again, it will not be impossible to cross levels and fight against the powerful yin-yang realm. Thinking of this, Wu Yunwan felt a little relieved. Wu Yunwan said at this time, when the restrictions in the mist world disappear, with the character of the master of the mystic immortal sect, he will probably choose to occupy this world. I am afraid there will be a war by then. After the words fell, Wu Yunwan's brows that had just relaxed wrinkled again. The biggest reason why the two of them chose to leave the mystic sect and return to this world was that they could not accept the mystic sect's style of doing things. Their master treats them well, but the mystic immortal sect is too strong. Anyone who opposes them will be dealt with directly. None of the forces around the mystic immortal sect dare to say no to the mystic immortal sect. Although Wu Yunwan and Li Qingguo did not have any psychological burden for killing individuals after they gained power, killing people in the mystic immortal sect was completely different from killing people like them. Wu Yunwan and Li Qingguo usually kill people for some political purpose, while the mystic sect's killings often affect innocent people, and they kill other people and the whole sect at every turn, and they are very murderous. It is precisely for this reason that the immortal mystic sect has many enemies in the mist world, and the disciples of the mystic immortal sect have a difficult time in the mist world. Many forces surrender to the mystic immortal sect on the surface, but often secretly target the mystic immortal sect's disciples. Li Qing and Wu Yunhuan were hunted down by disciples from other sects many times. Li Qing and Wu Yunhuan were both tired of the life in the mist world, so when the restrictions in the mist world were loosened, they asked their master to send them all back. After hearing Wu Yunhuan's words, Li Qingguo chuckled, then stroked Wu Yunhuan's jade face, staring into Wu Yunhuan's beautiful eyes. "Junhuan, you are not worried about that man, are you? I was wondering a few days ago whether you had to stay by his side because the conditions for breaking through to heaven were related to him, but now I find that you seem to be really in love with him. I really don't know what's so good about that man that makes you care about him so much." Hearing Li Qingguo's words, Wu Yunhuan also showed a smile, and then said jokingly, "Qingguo, don't you know what's good about him? A few days ago, I heard someone shouting 'husband, husband, husband' non-stop." As soon as these words came out, Li Qingguo was startled. The next moment, the smile on her face solidified. "Yunhuan, it's not like you don't know the tricks of that bastard. I was forced to do that." Wu Yunhuan smiled again, and then said, "Qingguo, can't I tell if you were forced?" Li Qingguo said, "Yunhuan, if you continue to talk, I will be angry." Seeing that Li Qingguo had said this, Wu Yunhuan quickly said, Okay, I won't tease you anymore." Li Qingguo said at this time, "Yunhuan, have you ever suspected that that bastard is actually an evil cultivator? Generally speaking, it is impossible for normal people to focus all their energy on matters between men and women. Only evil cultivators who use yin to replenish yang will do such things. The most important thing is that Lu Chen really used too many methods to deal with people, and tortured them for a very long time. He didn't look like a good person at all." Hearing Li Qingguo's question, Wu Yunhuan said, "Qingguo, if he was really an evil cultivator, with his ability, I'm afraid you would have been so addicted to him that you would not be able to get up from the bed. If Lu Chen really harvested yin to replenish yang, given the time he had to do so, many of the women in Lu Chen's harem would have died. Now, Lu Chen's wives and concubines are not only not dead, but they are all radiant and younger as they live, which is obviously not the result of being harvested. On the contrary, they gained a lot of benefits because of Lu Chen. Not only did their strength increase, the hidden wounds on their bodies also disappeared, and they became more and more beautiful as they lived." Li Qingguo naturally understood this, but she was still very doubtful. How could there be such generous men in this world? If they get benefits, then Lu Chen may pay the price. He can't do that kind of thing all night long, but there is no cost at all, right? A cultivator is willing to pay the price and lose his body for that kind of thing, which makes Li Qingguo a little unbelievable. Seeing that Li Qingguo was still doubting Lu Chen, Wu Yunhuan continued, "Qingguo, okay, don't think too much about it. You should have heard when you were in the mysterious immortal sect that there are exercises in this world that allow men and women to practice together. The Dragon and Phoenix Yin and Yang Kung Fu is obviously a dual cultivation method. Perhaps this method is only suitable for both men and women. There are advantages, there are no disadvantages." Seeing that Wu Yunhuan trusted Lu Chen so much, Li Qingguo stopped continuing the topic, "Maybe." At this moment, a voice sounded at the door of the courtyard, "Qingguo, you have been my woman for so long, why do you still think so bad of me?" Hearing this voice, Li Qingguo's delicate body trembled. That guy came again. The two women then turned to look in the direction of the sound. Lu Chen, wearing a black and gold dragon robe, was slowly walking towards them. Wu Yunhuan immediately stood up and saluted and said, "I have met your majesty." Wu Yunhuan saluted, but Li Qingguo didn't make any movement at all. However, Lu Chen didn't pay much attention. Not to mention that Li Qingguo didn't salute, even if his wives and concubines didn't salute, he wouldn't feel anything. On the contrary, his wives and concubines saluted him, which made Lu Chen feel that they did not regard him as their husband. Lu Chen immediately came to Wu Yunhuan, held Wu Yunhuan's shoulders and said, "Get up. Yunhuan, your belly is getting bigger day by day. Don't keep saluting for a long time in the future. What if you hurt our child?" Speaking of this, Lu Chen glanced at Li Qingguo intentionally or unintentionally. Li Qingguo also noticed Lu Chen's gaze, and her face instantly turned cold. Why is this man staring at her? Could he be trying to get her pregnant too? Wu Yunhuan asked directly at this time, "Why did your majesty come to us today? Lu Chen only came at night. If he came so early, he must have something to do with them." Lu Chen looked at Li Qingguo and said, "Well, I have something to do with Qingguo." Li Qingguo asked, "I wonder what your majesty has to do with me?" Lu Chen smiled and said, "This is not the place to talk. Let's talk somewhere else." Having said this, Lu Chen stroked Wu Yunhuan's belly again, and then said to Wu Yunhuan, "Yunhuan, Qingguo and I are going back to the room first." Wu Yunhuan responded, "Yeah, okay." The next moment, Lu Chen directly grabbed Li Qingguo's fair arm, and then their bodies disappeared on the spot. End of chapter. Chapter 557. Who do you think I am? Li Qingguo originally thought that Lu Chen really wanted to see her for something important, but after this bastard brought her to the room, he pushed her down on the soft couch. See. Before he even got down to business, he started to take action. After an unknown amount of time, Lu Chen hugged Li Qingguo's snow-white body with a slight blush, and then said in her ear, "Those sect forces have recognized that you are also from their side. After I leave, Yanqing will trouble you." Hearing Lu Chen's words, Li Qingguo breathed out and said in a weak and cold voice, "Hey, you insult me so much, do you think I will still protect Yanqing for you? Protect your wives, concubines, and children? Who do you think I am?" Lu Chen said, "What's wrong with bullying? I'm leaving Yanqing soon. You don't know how long it will take before you can see me. I served you before I left Yanqing, which shows how good I am to you. If I leave for a few months or a year, wouldn't it be particularly uncomfortable for you?" Li Qingguo said coldly, "In that case, do I still want to thank you?" Lu Chen continued to do things at this time. "Hey, there's no need to thank you. Hey, this is what I should do. Who made you my wife?" Hearing Lu Chen's words, Li Qingguo was angry and annoyed. This bastard really regarded her as his forbidden wife and slave girl. "You want me to help you, no problem, but you must be nice to Yunhuan in the future." Lu Chen chuckled, turned her over, let her look directly into his eyes and said, "Even if you don't say it, I will always be good to Yunhuan. After all, she is too, me woman." Li Qingguo had no intention of bargaining with Lu Chen now. What she just said about being nice to Yunhuan was just a subconscious sentence when her mind was confused. Li Qingguo also understood why this guy started to do things as soon as he brought her in. This bastard must have wanted to tell her in this way that she was now his forbidden wife and could no longer live without him, so she had to listen to him. Although Li Qingguo felt very unhappy about being dominated by Lu Chen, she had no choice but to agree to Lu Chen. Of course, she had actually made her decision a long time ago. Even if Lu Chen didn't come to talk about it in person today, she would still stand by Xia. Just think of it for the sake of your good sister. After an unknown amount of time, Li Qingguo's originally dignified bun had become messy. Li Qingguo suddenly thought of something, and then said, call that cheap maid." As long as Li Qingguo feels unhappy now, she just wants to see Murong Shuer being tortured by Lu Chen. Although her defeat actually has little to do with Murong Shuer betrayed her, and she doesn't want to see Murong Shuer, a maid. Better off. Lu Chen chuckled lightly, grabbed Li Qingguo's jade arm, pulled her up, hugged her body and said, "Forget it for today, I have something to do later." He came here specifically today just to talk to Li Qingguo, not to have fun. Of course, he could also do some things on the way. Li Qingguo held back and said, "Now that barbarian goddess has also gone to the Daqian dynasty, are you really sure that you can conquer the Daqian dynasty?" Lu Chen replied, "We have to send troops even if we are not sure. The restrictions in the foggy world are about to disappear. I must seize the time to unify this world. Only in this way can I integrate the power of this world to fight against the invading enemies of the foggy world." Speaking of this, Lu Chen's mood obviously became much higher and he became more violent. Li Qingguo scolded Lu Chen angrily in her heart again, "This bastard is really not a human being. If you don't have a trump card and just rely on the power of this world, let alone fight against the entire misty world, I'm afraid even this palace and the mystic immortal sect where Yunwan used to be won't be able to deal with it." Hearing Li Qingguo's words, Lu Chen became interested and immediately said, "Oh? Is the mysterious immortal sect very powerful?" Li Qingguo replied, "There are at least 2 strong men in the mystic immortal sect who are in the yin and yang realm, and there are countless others in the heaven and human realm. There are only a few heavenly beings in this world, are you sure you can compete with them?" Hearing this, Lu Chen fell into silence. Seeing that Lu Chen was silent, Li Qingguo suddenly felt very happy in her heart. She never thought that this bastard would also be afraid one day. Li Qingguo continued, "Originally, if you please me and Yunwan, when the restrictions in the mist world disappear, we can still put in a good word in front of our master and let her save your life. But now you lock me and Yunwan in your harem, treating them like playthings and humiliating them wantonly. When my master finds out about this, I'm afraid you won't, hiss, you, bastard." Li Qingguo was about to be arrogant, but she was interrupted by Lu Chen's operation before she finished her harsh words. Lu Chen chuckled and said, "Your master? If your master dares to come, I can still turn her into your sister." "You?" Li Qingguo was completely out of moves. She wanted to see what kind of trump card this bastard had when the restrictions in the mist world disappeared. He was not even afraid of the strong yin-yang realm. After giving Li Qingguo a hard lesson, Lu Chen left her on the bed and then went to the next door alone. Wu Yunwan was sitting on the soft couch, holding a needle and thread in her hand, sewing the child's clothes. Seeing this scene, Lu Chen couldn't help laughing. When he heard Lu Chen's laughter, Wu Yunwan immediately raised his head and looked towards the door. Seeing Lu Chen at the door, Wu Yunwan asked in confusion, "Has your majesty finished talking to Qingguo so quickly?" Lu Chen replied with a smile, "I would have liked to talk to her for a while, but unfortunately she was not strong enough and fell asleep directly." "You said she is a celestial being, why is her physical strength so poor?" Hearing Lu Chen's words, Wu Yunwan immediately wanted to roll her eyes at Lu Chen. Li Qingguo was a god, but she was also a woman. If Lu Chen got angry, that woman could withstand his anger. At this time, Lu Chen came to sit next to Wu Yunwan and gently held Wu Yunwan's belly with his arms. Lu Chen looked down at the clothes sewn in Wu Yunwan's hands and said, "I finally discovered that after you women have children, no matter what your living conditions are, you like to sew clothes for your children with your own hands." Before Lu Chen became emperor, the Buwang mansion had established a garment factory. Children could have as many clothes as they wanted, but Chu Yukan and the others still liked to sew their own clothes. This also allowed Lu Chen to see the difference between this era and the era in his previous life. Wu Yunwan said, "The clothes in the garment factory all have the same shape, but they are not as good looking as the clothes we sew ourselves." Speaking of this, Wu Yunwan asked, "Your Majesty came to me for something?" Lu Chen lowered his head and glanced at Wu Yunwan's belly and said, "I don't know when I will come back from this expedition. By the time I come back, you may have been born. I'm worried that if I'm not here, you will be in danger when you give birth." End of chapter. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audio Wave. Chapter 558 Teaching the Rejuvenation Skill. Hearing Lu Chen's words, Wu Yunhuan suddenly felt warm in her heart. Although she was not sure whether Lu Chen cared about herself or the child in her belly, Lu Chen's words of concern in front of her made her feel very comfortable. Lu Chen continued, I will use the rejuvenation hand to instill some special spiritual power into you first, so that when you give birth to a child, you will not feel so uncomfortable. Now that Lu Chen's rejuvenation skills have been cultivated to great perfection, he can instill special spiritual power into people's bodies in advance and treat people's injuries at specific times. However, there will not be too much spiritual power instilled in advance, and these spiritual powers will slowly pass away over time, but even if these spiritual powers will pass away, there will still not be a big problem in preserving them until Wu Yunhuan gives birth. After hearing what Lu Chen said, Wu Yunhuan was a little curious. Can Lu Chen's rejuvenation hand really make people feel nothing when giving birth? She had already heard from Mu Zixuan and others. They all said that Lu Chen's magic was very powerful. As long as Lu Chen was by his side when giving birth, there would be no pain and the child would be born in an instant. Even when the child was born, they couldn't react. Wu Yunhuan asked, Can your Majesty's healing magic also work after your Majesty leaves? What Mu Zixuan and the others said was that Lu Chen should be by her side when giving birth, but just now Lu Chen said that she could instill some special spiritual power in her in advance, which made Wu Yunhuan even more curious. The spiritual power that Lu Chen instilled could still be used. Stored in her body? Lu Chen smiled and said, This is natural. Then Lu Chen put his hand on Wu Yunhuan's belly, and then poured green spiritual power into her body. The moment the spiritual power entered Wu Yunhuan's body, Wu Yunhuan felt extremely relaxed, and she became much more energetic. Ever since she became pregnant, she had always dozed off and couldn't cheer up. She didn't expect that as soon as Lu Chen's spiritual power entered her body, her negative physical condition disappeared. Lu Chen's healing magic was so powerful that Wu Yunhuan was eager to learn it. However, Wu Yunhuan also knew that it was unlikely that Lu Chen would teach him such a powerful healing technique. At this moment, the spiritual power that Lu Chen had injected into Wu Yunhuan's body began to converge towards the fetus in her belly. After a moment, a ball of green spiritual power enveloped the fetus. With this spiritual power, it will not be so difficult for Wu Yunhuan to give birth. Feeling the sense of relief coming from her belly, Wu Yunhuan finally said, Your Majesty, I wonder if I can learn this healing technique. Hearing Wu Yunhuan's words, Lu Chen was stunned for a moment, and then he looked at Wu Yunhuan, Junhuan, what did you just say? Hearing Lu Chen's question, Wu Yunhuan thought that Lu Chen was unwilling, so she said, Your Majesty, I thought that if you are not in the palace in the future and any sisters are injured, I can use this healing technique to heal them. Lu Chen smiled slightly, then raised his hands, holding Wu Yunhuan's beautiful face, and his child's face was pressed against Wu Yunhuan's face. Junhuan, you reminded me, I will directly if I teach you the rejuvenation hand, you won't have to worry about getting sick in the future. Hearing what Lu Chen said, Wu Yunhuan was slightly surprised. She thought Lu Chen was unwilling just now, but it turned out that Lu Chen had never thought of this at all. Lu Chen continued, but the rejuvenation hand is not that easy to learn. I will teach you the rejuvenation hand. The level of practice depends on your talent. Lu Chen was able to learn the rejuvenation spell largely because of the system. The way he practiced was to be close to his wives and concubines, but if Wu Yunhuan and the others wanted to practice the rejuvenation spell, they had to spend their own time practicing it. It's hard to say whether they can practice the rejuvenation hand to the great perfection, and it's certainly not easy. After all, the most terrifying thing about the rejuvenation spell is that it can bring people back to life. A technique that can bring people back to life is not an ordinary technique. But you can give it a try. If one of them is very talented and learns the rejuvenation hand easily, then they will be able to treat their injuries without him in the future, or treat the injuries of other wives, concubines, and children. Thinking of this, Lu Chen said to Wu Yunwan, I will teach you the secret of the rejuvenating hand technique now. Speaking of this, Lu Chen directly kissed Wu Yunwan's red lips. Wu Yunwan was a little confused. This was the way to teach the skills. Why was it different from the way she thought of teaching the skills? Lu Chen's kiss was very intense, and soon Wu Yunwan's whole body softened. Of course, Lu Chen's teaching of skills did not require such a degree of kissing, or even kissing at all. This was just Lu Chen's teasing. It's just Wu Yunwan. After kissing Wu Yunwan for a while, Lu Chen said to the system in his heart, System, teach Wu Yunwan the rejuvenation spell. After hearing Lu Chen's order, the system prompt sounded immediately. The rejuvenation hand is being taught. The teaching of the rejuvenation hand is completed. Wu Yunwan has learned the rejuvenation hand. At this time, Wu Yunwan was so confused that she was about to lose consciousness, and she was completely confused. But at this moment, the secrets of the exercises appeared in her mind. Wu Yunwan was extremely surprised. She did not expect Lu Chen. Teaching the skills is actually so fast. Can Lu Chen really teach his wives and concubines skills through kisses? She thought just now that this little man was playing a trick on her. As the secrets of the rejuvenation hands entered Wu Yunwan's mind, Wu Yunwan quickly learned the basic treatment techniques of the rejuvenation hands. After an unknown amount of time, Lu Chen let go of Wu Yunwan, who was blushing and restless. There was a flash of autumn in Wu Yunwan's eyes, and she looked lovingly into Lu Chen's eyes. Thank you, Your Majesty, for giving me the rejuvenating hand. Lu Chen smiled lightly, you are my wife, this is how it should be. From now on, if you master the rejuvenation hand skillfully, if someone in the palace is injured or something, you will be in trouble. Wu Yunwan said, Your Majesty, please rest assured. As long as it is Your Majesty's women or children, no matter who is injured, I will do my best to treat them. Lu Chen said, with your words, I feel relieved. Okay, I have something else to do, so I'll leave first. You can familiarize yourself with the secrets of the rejuvenation spell. After the words fell, Lu Chen let go of Wu Yunwan, stood up and walked towards the outside of the palace. Wu Yunwan also stood up immediately and said, Congratulations to Your Majesty. Looking at Lu Chen's tall back as he left, Wu Yunwan had mixed emotions and her heart was beating hard. She didn't expect that the little man she looked down on at the beginning would now make her so obsessed with him. It seemed that she had really fallen for him. In hand. After Lu Chen left Wu Yunwan's palace, he went to Chu Yukin's place and also instilled some special spiritual power of the rejuvenation hand into Chu Yukin, and also passed on the rejuvenation hand technique to Chu Yukin. After that, Lu Chen went to Xue Linglong's place again. After coming out of Xue Linglong's place, Lu Chen went to the places where other wives and concubines lived. In the end, most of Lu Chen's women learned the rejuvenation technique. End of chapter. Chapter 559 Lu Chen's Southern Expedition. After teaching the rejuvenation technique to his wives and concubines, Lu Chen no longer worried that they would have difficult childbirths again. Even if he is not around, other wives and concubines can join forces to help his woman give birth. As long as you have a preliminary grasp of the rejuvenation technique, there won't be much of a problem in helping pregnant women give birth. Now that things in Yancheng have almost been arranged, it's time for him to go on an expedition. 6 days later, Lu Chen led an army of 500,000 people southward, heading straight for the Great Dynasty. For a time, the whole Great Xia was full of excitement, and Yancheng became dull. Wu Mansion. Wu Ming's courtyard. Wu Ming stood next to the lotus pond, looking at the newspaper in his hand. The evil expression on his face could not conceal the excitement in his heart. He laughed and said, Let's go, finally go, our chance has come. I can finally ascend to that position. Ha 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 ha. When Lu Chen comes back and sees that Yancheng has been occupied and his wife, concubines, and children are imprisoned, I don't know what his expression will be like. At this time, a servant next to Wu Ming said, Your Highness, I heard that Emperor Xia's concubines are very beautiful. If you take over the palace, you will have them serve you. What do you think? After hearing the servant's words, Wu Ming continued to laugh. It is said that Lu Chen is a lecher, and all the women in the harem are stunning. If the palace is captured, I must enjoy it. Look, see how different those women are. At this time, Wu Ming had already begun to fantasize about his rotten life after taking over the palace. He wanted to return all the humiliation Lu Chen had brought to him and all the women who passed through Lu Chen. At this moment, a certain restaurant in the old city of Yancheng. The entire restaurant was still overcrowded, but the door of the restaurant was closed tightly. There were no other guests in the entire restaurant, only representatives of the major sects. At this time, Yuan Tian stood up on the second floor, glanced at the people on the second floor, then looked down at those on the first floor, and then said, The tyrant has set out to fight, and our opportunity will come soon. Hearing this, the warriors in the entire restaurant became excited. In the past, most of the disciples of the sect forces were restricted by the sect's rules. They rarely killed people or had the opportunity to do bad things. But this time is different. This time, the major sect forces have no restrictions on their disciples. As long as they rush into Yancheng, they can burn, kill, loot, and commit all kinds of evil. This was the first time they had had this opportunity and they were so excited, so excited. Some people from the sect, like Wu Ming, have even taken up the idea of Lu Chen's wives. At this time, Si Yahua, the head of the Yunlin sect, asked, Sect Master Yuan, when do you plan to take action? Yuan Tian replied, 5 days later. According to Daxia's marching speed, they will not be able to come back as soon as possible after 5 days. As long as we kill the heavenly man guarding Yancheng, the tyrant will have no chance of winning. Hearing Yuan Tian's words, Zhou Yangping, the leader of the Golden Feather sect, laughed and said, This tyrant really looks down on us. He actually thinks that we will be obedient and he will disband the section. Si Yahua said, If God wants to make him die, he must first make him mad. If a tyrant is so arrogant, it is normal for him to be destroyed. In that case, let's wait. At this time, Zhou Yangping thought of something, so he asked, By the way, what's going on with Emperor Yu? Yuan Tian said, Emperor Yu said that as soon as we launch an attack on the city, she will immediately take control of the palace, and then send people from the city gate to help us open the city gate and help us occupy the entire Yancheng. As for the celestial being guarding Yancheng, if we can't solve it, she can also contribute. Zhou Yangping said, This is the best. After the words fell, Zhou Yangping picked up the wine bowl, raised it and said, Then I wish us smooth sailing and success. After Zhou Yangping picked up the bowl, everyone in the restaurant picked up their bowls, and then they drank the wine together. Seeing this scene, the smile on Yuan Tian's face became more and more exuberant, and he didn't know if he was thinking of something happy. Time passed in a flash, and the news of Lu Chen's southern expedition soon spread to the Dacian dynasty. As soon as they heard that the tyrant Emperor Xia personally led troops to attack the Dacian dynasty, the governors of some places in Dacian quickly wrote letters of surrender. Today, the plague is rampant in Dacian, the people are in dire straits, and the army has little combat effectiveness. There is no way to resist Daxia's elite soldiers. Rather than die, it is better to simply surrender. You might be able to save your life by surrendering. If Emperor Xia wanted to rule such a large country, he would need countless talents. In the eyes of those high-ranking officials, they still had hope of continuing to serve as officials. It's nothing more than a change of clothes. At the same time, Dacian, the royal palace. At this time in the imperial garden, Lu King Kaihu was wearing a green palace dress. The green dress wrapped her plump body, and the skin underneath seemed to be looming. She had a bun on her head and a golden hair accessory. The whole person looks mature, dignified, graceful and luxurious. Lu Qingkai was talking to Mu Yongzi when a soldier suddenly appeared at the entrance of the royal garden. "Your Majesty, it's bad, Daxia has sent troops." The soldier knelt on the ground and raised the information in his hand. Lu Qingkai raised his hand and shook it, and the information in the soldier's hand flew into Lu Qingkai's hand. Lu Qingkai immediately opened the information and glanced at it. When he saw the content in the information, Lu Qingkai's face instantly became colder. "Humph, Emperor Xia is really confident. An army of 500,000 people wants to destroy Dagon." Hearing this, Mu Yongzi said from the side, "Don't look down on him. Others not only destroyed Dao, but also destroyed Daiyu. He is not an ordinary person." Lu Qingkai said calmly, "As long as he dares to come, I will let him come back without any return." Speaking of this, Lu Qingkai asked, "You also have a spiritual weapon on you? If he takes action, you will drag him for me, and I will find the right time to deal with him." Hearing Lu Qingkai's words, Mu Yongzi said with a smile, "Okay, I just hope you won't be frightened by Emperor Xia and hide." How could Mu Yongzi not know Lu Qingkai's careful thoughts? Lu Qingkai planned to let her and Lu Chen fight to the death, and then both sides would suffer, and then Lu Qingkai would sit back and reap the benefits. However, Mu Yongzi did not choose to expose Lu Qingkai's little thoughts. If the situation went wrong, she would flee the scene immediately, leaving Lu Qingkai and Lu Chen behind. As a strong person in the creation realm, she would have no problem escaping easily. There was no way she would fight Lu Chen for Lu Qingkai's sake. Lu Chen had a weapon that could kill heavenly beings. If he was hit by that weapon once, even if he didn't die, he would still be seriously injured. Lu Qingkai said at this time, "I have to remind you that once Lu Chen is destroyed, our covenant will be void immediately." Hearing Lu Qingkai's reminder, Mu Yongzi chuckled, and then asked, "Is the queen planning to attack me on the battlefield?" Lu Qingkai said expressionlessly, "I am not so despicable." End of chapter. Chapter 560. Our Majesty is a benevolent king. Upon hearing Lu Qingkai's answer, Mu Yongzi just smiled lightly and didn't take it seriously at all. If Lu Chen really died on the battlefield and the two of them had no common enemy, Lu Qingkai would most likely take action against her. If they no longer have the same enemies, then they are enemies. Of course, that is all for later. We must first deal with Lu Chen, the most difficult enemy. If Lu Chen was still alive, neither of them would be able to achieve their goals and leave this world. At the same time, Yanqing. This morning, Yanqing was shrouded in dark clouds. Thick dark clouds pressed down on Yanqing, as if the sky was about to collapse. The air was also very dull, and people found it difficult to breathe. This was not an atmosphere exaggeration when danger was coming, but because Chu Yukin had activated the 7-killing formation to protect the pulse, and the formation was frantically absorbing spiritual energy, which caused strange phenomena in the sky and the air became very dull. Chu Yukin and the others had already received the news and knew that the sect forces would come to attack Yanqing today, so they made preparations early in the morning. At this moment, the sect forces headed by Tian Wuzong were also ready. They had gathered in a forest a few kilometers away from Yanqing. Just waiting for an order, they would immediately attack Yanqing. After an unknown amount of time, a yellow flag suddenly appeared on the gate of Yanqing. Seeing this flag, Yuan Tian immediately said to other sect forces, "Huang Yu has already started to take action. They will lure out the heavenly man from Yanqing, so it's time for us to take action." Having said this, Yuan Tian led a group of sect disciples and ran directly towards Yanqing. After a while, two figures appeared in the sky above Yanqing, and they seemed to be fighting. After a while, these two figures appeared outside Yanqing. Emperor Yu, who was wearing a phoenix robe, was chasing another woman in green clothes. When two figures appeared outside Yanchenj, Yuan Tian immediately said to Si Yehua and Zhou Yangping, Emperor Yu has lured out the heavenly man guarding Yanchenj. Let's take action together. After the words fell, Yuan Tian followed behind Emperor Yu, chasing the woman in green clothes together. Seeing that Yuan Tiandu took the initiative to pursue him, Si Yehua and Zhou Yangping did not hesitate, and they quickly chased after him. However, the woman in green didn't seem to have any intention of fighting head-on. She had been running away towards the forest east of Yanchenj, and she was running very fast. Si Yehua and Zhou Yangping also gradually felt that something was wrong. Since this heavenly being was left by Emperor Xia to guard Yanchenj, then Yanchenj was in danger. Shouldn't she just guard Yanchenj? Why is she running away like this now? Quick! If she, a heavenly being, escapes, Yanchenj will probably fall, and Lu Chen's wives, concubines, and children will also fall into the hands of their sect. When Lu Chen comes back, won't he look for this heavenly being? Trouble? Or did she know that this heavenly being was no match for them, so she simply gave up on Yanchenj? As for Lu Chen's wife, concubines, and children, she didn't care anymore, as long as she lived anyway. If this is the case, then there seems to be no need for them to pursue this heavenly being. Anyway, when Lu Chen comes back and sees that Yanchenj has been occupied by the sect forces, and his wife, concubines, and children have also fallen into the hands of others, he will definitely not let that god go. Just when Zhou Yangping was about to tell Yuan Tian that there was no need for them to continue chasing, the woman in green clothes suddenly stopped. Seeing this scene, Zhou Yangping and Si Yehua were startled. Originally, they thought that the woman had no intention of confronting them, but just when they were about to let the woman go, the woman actually stopped on her own initiative. After Yun Xianxian stopped, Li Qingguo also stopped in the air. At this time, Zhou Yangping and Si Yehua were completely unaware that they had fallen into a trap. Si Yehua said, "Girl, although I don't know what sect you are from, but if you can find your way back and leave the tyrant's side, we will not take action against you." Yun Xianxian did not respond to Si Yehua's words, but glanced at Si Yehua and Zhou Yangping indifferently. Then she said coldly, "It's a waste of my time to travel so far to do something for just two heavenly beings." Si Yehua and Zhou Yangping were startled when they heard what Yun Xianxian said. For two heavenly beings? Two? Including Emperor Yu, aren't there four heavenly beings on their side? Why would this woman say there are two heavenly beings? For a moment, they seemed to notice something in their hearts and immediately became vigilant. However, it was too late. At this moment, Yuan Tian suddenly took action and pierced Si Yehua's body with a sword. Si Yehua spat out blood and instantly understood what was going on. Yuan Tian, you. Zhou Yangping also realized that something was wrong, and he quickly attacked Yuan Tian. After Yuan Tian succeeded, he flashed his body and instantly distanced himself from the two of them. At this time, the positions of Yun Xianxian, Li Qingguo, and Xia Yuan formed a triangle, and Zhou Yangping and Si Yehua were in this triangle. Zhou Yangping angrily shouted, "Yuan Tian, Emperor Yu, what do you mean?" Xia Yuan said with a smile at this time, "Let me introduce myself again. My name is Xia Yuan. I am the former head of Luoyang Sword Sect and now the Dean of Luoyang College." As he spoke, Xia Yuan's original appearance appeared. After seeing Xia Yuan's true face, even a fool understood what was going on. Si Yehua covered his bleeding wound at this time and said weakly, "It turns out that all this is the tyrant's conspiracy." Although Si Yehua was stabbed by Xia Yuan, Si Yehua was a heavenly being after all and would not die so easily. But in this situation, even if Si Yehua was fine, with their strength, it would be difficult for them to deal with three heavenly beings, and one of them was a heavenly being who had understood the meaning of the sword. Si Yehua continued at this time, "I am very curious as to why the tyrant didn't take action directly when we were in the old city." Xia Yuan had known the plan of these sect forces for a long time. If the tyrant wanted to deal with them, he could just send people to the old city to kill them too. There was no need to wait until now to take action. Xia Yuan smiled and replied, "Our Majesty is a benevolent and righteous king. He will not kill people casually without definite evidence." Hearing Xia Yuan's answer, Zhou Yangping sneered, "That bullshit benevolent and righteous king is so hypocritical." The tyrant sent Xia Yuan to lure them to rebel, and there was no talk of benevolence and righteousness. This tyrant clearly wanted to find a legitimate reason to get rid of these sect forces. Now that these sect forces have taken the initiative to rebel, the tyrant can take action directly without waiting for the sect forces to disband themselves. Xia Yuan said, "Okay, now that you two know what's going on, let me send you two on your way." End of chapter. Chapter 561. I won't let you have an easy time even if I die. After hearing Xia Yuan's words, Zhou Yangping laughed and said, "If you want to kill us, it depends on the three of you who don't have that ability." Having said this, Zhou Yangping immediately released his spiritual power, and the next moment, red fireworks surrounded him. Si Yahua, who was seriously injured, immediately sealed his wound with spiritual power and temporarily stopped the bleeding. Then he took out his long sword, pointed at Xia Yuan and said, "Even if I die, I will hold you back." Speaking of this, Si Yahua took the lead and took action, flashing his figure and heading straight for Xia Yuan. Zhou Yangping was not idle either, he also rushed directly towards Yun Xian. Zhou Yangping still has some thoughts. He is different from Si Yahua. Si Yahua was attacked by a sneak attack just now and was seriously injured. There is a high probability that he will not be able to escape. But Zhou Yangping is still intact. As long as he can break through a gap, he has a chance to escape. Zhou Yangping knew that Emperor Yu had understood the meaning of the sword and was very difficult to deal with, so he directly chose Yun Xian. Although Zhou Yangping had never seen Emperor Yu and didn't know what Emperor Yu looked like, Li Qingguo was wearing a phoenix robe and had the aura of a superior person. He knew she was Emperor Yu at a glance. Yun Xian looked expressionless as she looked at Zhou Yangping who was rushing toward her. She didn't understand why this person felt that she was the best to deal with among the three. Does she look that weak? When Zhou Yangping rushed in front of Yun Xian, he punched out, and the shadow of a tiger appeared instantly. The tiger was burning with blazing flames, and it looked like it was restraining Yun Xian's ice-based skills. Now Yun Xian seemed to understand why this person felt that she was easy to deal with. It turned out that she saw and felt that the spiritual power in her body was ice spiritual power, and felt that fire-based techniques could restrain her. But unfortunately, he was going to miscalculate. Seeing that the tiger whose whole body was burning with raging flames was about to touch Yun Xian's body, Yun Xian suddenly raised his hand. The world is frozen. The next moment, all the land and forests within 1 kilometer of where they were covered in ice. The shadow of Zhou Yangping's technique was also frozen. Immediately afterwards, Yun Xian raised his jade finger and pointed at the shadow. The shadow turned into pieces and fell to the ground. Seeing this scene, Zhou Yangping was stunned, and a look of disbelief suddenly appeared on his face. How can this be? This was his strongest technique. Originally, he thought that as long as he could hold this woman back for a moment, he would have a chance to escape, so he used his strongest technique as soon as possible. As a result, the other party blocked his strongest move with just a wave of his hand. Is the white-haired woman in front of him really a celestial being? How could a heavenly being be so powerful? He had tried his best to pick the weakest person as his opponent, but in the end he was no match for him. For a moment, Zhou Yangping felt extremely desperate. No, he can't just give up. He didn't believe that he couldn't even deal with a woman. Thinking of this, Zhou Yangping gathered all his spiritual power and punched out again. A huge tiger shadow appeared again, and Yun Xian did not intend to waste too much time on Zhou Yangping. She raised her slender hand again and waved it out. Countless ice picks appeared above her head, and then, all of these ice picks flew towards Zhou Yangping. Seeing so many ice picks, Zhou Yangping instantly felt the danger. He immediately came down from the sky and went directly into the forest, trying to break through the blockade blocked by Yun Xianxian and Li Qingguo. Seeing Zhou Yangping running away, Emperor Yu snorted softly, and the spiritual energy on his body was released instantly. Immediately afterwards, countless sword auras appeared around Li Qingguo's body. Li Qingguo clenched the sword in his hand and swung out the sword. The sword auras went straight towards Zhou Yangping. After Zhou Yangping, who was escaping, sensed the danger, he quickly turned around and used the previous technique again, but the tiger's shadow was cut off by Li Qingguo's sword energy in just an instant. Zhou Yangping was shocked. How could these two women be so powerful? He had been a heavenly being for many years, but he couldn't even deal with this woman who looked so young. What Zhou Yangping didn't know was that Yun Xianxian was much older than him in terms of age. However, she had practiced the suspension technique and her body was special, so she looked like a 3-year-old at most. A woman in her teens. In fact, this is quite common in the advanced world of immortality. Many people who look like they are only in their 20s or 30s are actually thousands of years old, or even hundreds of thousands of years old. Zhou Yangping shouted loudly at this time, directly burning the blood essence and blood. He roared, "If you want to kill me, I will not let you have an easy life even if I die." Zhou Yangping didn't run away this time. He turned around and kicked off his legs, heading straight towards Yun Xianxian. At the same time, the battle between Xia Yuan and Si Yehua also began. Si Yehua was injured just now, and he had no chance of winning in front of Xia Yuan. After all, Xia Yuan is the master of the sword sect. In terms of true strength, Xia Yuan is more powerful than Li Qingguo. Si Yehua clenched his sword and stabbed Xia Yuan with the sword, and a huge golden sword shadow appeared in the air. Xia Yuan did not panic. He pulled out the sword in his hand and gathered spiritual power in the sword. "Since you also use a sword, I will let you die by the sword." After Xia Yuan finished speaking, he struck out with his sword, and a huge stream of sword light swept directly towards the sword shadow in front of Si Yehua. Seeing this scene, Si Yehua's face instantly became paler. Just as Si Yehua was about to dodge, the sword light directly cut off the sword shadow in front of him, and the sword light also struck at Si Yehua. Si Yehua quickly used his spiritual power and struck out with his sword again. The next moment, the sword light swung by Xia Yuan touched Si Yehua's sword. Si Yehua felt tremendous pressure. For a moment, the wound he had just opened stretched open, and blood spurted out. He kept spitting out blood from his mouth. Si Yehua realized that he was probably going to die here. He laughed and said, "Since you want me to die, then you should die with me." At this point, Si Yehua was about to explode his danshan. However, just as he was concentrating all his spiritual power on his danshan, a huge ice pick flew over from nowhere and pierced Si Yehua's body. Puff! Si Yehua spat out a mouthful of blood again, and his danshan was directly pierced by the huge ice pick. He could no longer gather spiritual power, let alone self-destruct. Soon, the light in Si Yehua's eyes dimmed, and he lost his life and fell from the sky. If you are in the advanced world of cultivation, even if you are hit by the ice pick, you will probably not die, because many people in the advanced world of cultivation have spiritual weapons to protect the body, and have also practiced some self-protection techniques, or it is a protective charm. But unfortunately, this is just a low-level world. When celestial beings of the same level are fighting against each other, one celestial being is likely to be able to eliminate another celestial being with one move. End of chapter. Chapter 562. From now on, this will be my palace. Seeing that Si Yehua was killed before he could self-destruct, Zhou Yangping's face became even paler. Obviously, the strength of these three heavenly beings is superior to him, and there is no way that he and Si Yehua can be their opponents. Zhou Yangping suddenly thought of something, and then stopped and said, "I surrender. Don't kill me. From now on, I will only follow your Majesty's lead. If your Majesty asks me to go east, I will never go west." After hearing this, Yun Xian and the other three didn't seem to have any change in their expressions. Zhou Yangping glanced at the expressions of the three of them. All three of them had very calm expressions, as if they didn't care at all whether he surrendered or not. Seeing their expressions, Zhou Yangping's heart suddenly became cold. Are they determined to kill him? After all, I am also a heavenly being. There are only so many heavenly beings in this world. If you keep him, he can create more value for Emperor Xia. At this time, Xia Yuan said, "Sect Master Zhou, to His Majesty, you are more valuable dead than alive." Hearing this, Zhou Yangping's face darkened instantly. "Since you are unwilling to let me go, I will drag you to be buried with you even if everything goes wrong." As soon as he finished speaking, Zhou Yangping, just like Si Yehua did just now, concentrated all his spiritual power on his Danshan, preparing to self-destruct his Danshan and die together with Xia Yuan and the other three. However, there was still no expression change on the faces of Xia Yuan and the others. They seemed not to be afraid of Zhou Yangping's self-explosion. Zhou Yangping was very disappointed to see that the expressions on their faces remained unchanged and remained as indifferent as before. Although he said that he wanted to die, deep down in his heart, he still didn't want to die. He was just threatening the three of them, trying to force them to give in and leave him a way to live. Zhou Yangping was a little confused as to why these three people were not afraid of death at all. Could it be that the three of them thought they had the ability to stop themselves from self-destructing before they self-destructed in their Danshan? Zhou Yangping was forced to panic at this time. He shouted loudly and said, "Don't bully others too much. I will blow myself up right now." Zhou Yangping also realized that he could not escape. Since these three people were determined to kill him, they should die together. Immediately, Zhou Yangping was about to explode himself, but just when Zhou Yangping was about to gather all his spiritual power into his Danshan, Li Qingqing and Yun Xianxian took action at the same time. Countless sword energy flew towards Zhou Yangping instantly, and many ice picks fell from the sky. In just an instant, Zhou Yangping was penetrated by the ice picks and sword energy. In the end, Zhou Yangping, like Si Yehua, did not have time to self-destruct his Danshan. In fact, if he wanted to self-destruct his Danshan, he could still do so, but if he did not concentrate all his spiritual power into his Danshan, the self-destruction would not be too big. The power cannot cause much damage. As Zhou Yangping's body slowly fell, their work was completed. At the same time, Yanqing, the disciples of those sect forces originally wanted to rush into Yanqing and implement their plan of burning, killing and looting. However, before they could get close to Yanqing, a strange formation appeared in the sky above Yanqing. Before the people from the sect forces could react, the formation suddenly emitted countless rays of light, and then, the people from the sect forces were penetrated by the light emitted by the formation. Some people were frightened and ran away quickly, but the light emitted by the formation was very fast and could reach their eyes in just a blink of an eye. Those people from the sect forces had already approached the gate of Yanqing. It was already too late to escape at this time. Soon, corpses lay everywhere at the gate of Yanqing, all of them people from various major sects. At this moment, Wu Ming had no idea what was happening outside the city gate, but after seeing the formation in the sky, he felt vaguely uneasy. At this moment, a disciple of Tian Wuzong appeared behind Wu Ming. "Your Highness, good news." Hearing the arrival of this voice, Wu Ming was relieved. He said a little unhappy, "Why did you come so late? I thought something happened outside." The disciple smiled and said, "We encountered some obstacles just now, so it was delayed for some time, but now all the obstacles have been cleared, and everyone in the palace has been controlled by us. Your Highness can take people directly to the palace." Hearing this, Wu Ming was overjoyed, and he immediately confirmed, "Yanqing has been occupied by you." The Tian Yuzong disciple said, "Yes, Your Highness, the Tianren in Yanchinj has been killed in the battle, and we have complete control of Yanchinj." Hearing this, Wu Ming laughed loudly, and then said, "Okay, okay. I really did not misjudge you. When Lu Chen comes back and sees everything in Yanchinj, I wonder what his expression will be, ha 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 ha. Let's go. Let's go to the palace now. I want to see how beautiful Lu Chen's wives and concubines are." Immediately, Wu Ming led a group of Wu family members who were following him and walked directly outside the Wu mansion. Wu He also felt the commotion outside. He asked his servant, "What happened outside?" The servant quickly replied, "Back to Your Highness. Your Highness left the mansion directly with some members of the Wu family royal family." Hearing this, Wu He frowned. He raised his head again and looked at the formation in the sky that had gradually dissipated. He couldn't help but think, could it be that those sect forces had really brought down Yanchinj? If this is the case, when Wu Ming becomes the emperor supported by those sects, wouldn't his position be very embarrassing? Wrong. Was Yanchinj really defeated so easily? I'm afraid there's some fraud involved, right? Wu He then said to his servants, "Send someone out to inquire. If you have any news, you will come back immediately." Wu He always felt that something was wrong. He didn't think that Lu Chen had no backup plan at all. Lu Chen had Zhuge Chongguang by his side. Even if Lu Chen didn't have a brain, didn't Zhuge Chongguang have a brain? Zhuge Chongguang would definitely persuade Lu Chen to leave some backup cards, or trump cards. Wu He felt that if Wu Ming and the others ran out now, they would probably be greeted by a dead end. Wu Ming didn't know that the countdown to his death had already begun. Not long after, Wu Ming rode a carriage to the entrance of the palace. There were no guards at the entrance of the palace, not even a guard, as if the palace had really been captured. Wu Ming got off the carriage, saw this scene, and said with a smile, "From now on, this will be my king's palace." At this time, the servant on the side said flatteringly, "Your Majesty, you should call yourself me now." Wu Ming reacted instantly, "Oh yes, Yanchinj has been occupied now, and I will be the Lord of Daxia from now on. Ha 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 ha. Come on, let's go in and see how my concubines look like." After finishing his words, Wu Ming led a group of members of the Wu family's royal family and continued to move toward the palace. However, just as they entered the palace gate, some soldiers with muskets quickly appeared and surrounded them all. Seeing these soldiers, Wu Ming was stunned. Didn't he say that the palace had been occupied? Why are there still Daxia soldiers? End of chapter. Chapter 563 Sad Wu Yunwan. After Wu Ming came to his senses, he quickly turned around and wanted to ask the Tian Yuzong disciple what was going on. As a result, he looked back and saw that there were any disciples of the Tian Yu sect there, and now only the Wu family was left. Wu Ming's mind went blank for a moment. No matter how stupid he was, he understood what was going on at this moment. Just when Wu Ming wanted to defend himself, a commander of the Great Xia Forbidden Army shouted loudly, "A bold traitor, he actually created the palace. Those who are good at creating palaces will be killed without mercy." After the commander of the Imperial Army finished speaking, the soldiers were ready to shoot. Wu Ming laughed loudly at this moment and said, "Ha ha ha ha, Lu Chen, Lu Chen, I know that you have never thought of letting go of the Wu family. You are ruthless. You are ruthless enough. Even if I become a lonely ghost, I will not let you go. I'm going to come back to haunt you." Wu Ming has realized what his fate will be next, and he doesn't care anymore. As soon as Wu Ming finished speaking, the commander of the Forbidden Army took the lead in firing. Immediately afterwards, all the soldiers pulled the triggers, and bullets hit the bodies of the Wu family members one by one. Soon, there were corpses scattered on the ground, everywhere. Blood. Wu Ming was also shot by a bullet and fell to the ground, but his eyes were wide open, as if he would not close his eyes until death. Of course, he did not die with his eyes closed. He was laughing and thinking that he was going to be the emperor soon, but when he entered the palace, he found out that he had been fished and shot. How could he die with his eyes closed? Under the action of the Forbidden Army, it didn't take long for the entire Yanqing to regain its calm, and all the forces that had been fished out by fishing were wiped out. After the matter was settled, Wu Yunhuan also returned to her dormitory. Just as she returned to her dormitory, Li Qingguo also came back. After seeing Li Qingguo, Wu Yunhuan asked with concern, "Qingguo, nothing went wrong, right?" Li Qingguo chuckled softly and said, "It's just two old immortals. If there is any mistake, let alone three heavenly beings, I alone can take care of both of them." That bastard kept them from taking action now, not just for the sake of his reputation. If he had ignored his reputation and wanted to take action earlier, those sect forces would have been wiped out long ago. Hearing this, Wu Yunhuan seemed to realize something. At this moment, a maid suddenly entered the courtyard in a panic. "Master, something bad is going to happen." The maid who came in was from Wu Yunhuan, so Wu Yunhuan could be considered her master. After hearing what the maid said, Wu Yunhuan's ominous premonition became even stronger, and she quickly asked, Nuan, what happened?" The maid Nuan replied, "His Royal Highness Wu Ming led some of the Wu family to rebel and destroy the palace. They were shot dead by the commander of the Imperial Army." Wu Yunhuan was stunned. Really? Just as she thought. She seemed to understand why Lu Chen had to leave Yanqing before taking action. Lu Chen left Yanqing, and it was not Lu Chen himself who did the trick. He was not present, so he could completely blame everything on others. Lu Chen, he. Seeing Wu Yunhuan's face was so ugly, Li Qingguo snorted coldly and said, "Since ancient times, in the ruthless emperor's family, that bastard has never believed in Dao and Daiyu's royal family. It seems that all this was planned by him. It's just to let the royal family members of Dao and Daiyu come out to rebel, and then take this opportunity to get rid of them." Wu Yunhuan did not speak, her face was a little pale. Li Qingguo quickly supported Wu Yunhuan's body and said, "Junhuan, don't get so angry because of that bastard." Wu Yunhuan sighed slightly and said, "You can't blame him for this. If it weren't for the members of Dahu's royal family who haven't given up, they wouldn't." Li Qingguo said, "Yunhuan, everyone has desires. Seeing such a good opportunity, how could a member of the Dahu royal family not be tempted? In my opinion, all this is that bastard's fault." Wu Yunhuan fell into silence again. Of course she understood that Lu Chen was most likely planning all of this. After all, no emperor could really tolerate the members of the royal family from the previous dynasty, not to mention some of the royal members who were still evil-minded. If these people continue to remain, sooner or later they will cause harm in the future. Although she understood what Lu Chen did, Wu Yunhuan felt that Lu Chen treated her as an outsider when she thought that Lu Chen had never told her this. Wu Yunhuan always felt a faint pain in her heart at this time. Is this what it feels like to be hurt after falling in love with someone? Maybe Lu Chen never believed her. After Wu Yunhuan became pregnant, her mood became a little unstable and she was prone to random thoughts. At this time, Wu Yunhuan began to have random thoughts again. Seeing that Wu Yunhuan looked so sad, Li Qingguo did not intend to continue to irritate Wu Yunhuan. If he continued to say bad things about Lu Chen, Wu Yunhuan would probably be even more sad. Li Qingguo then comforted her and said, "Yunhuan, it's okay, don't think about those things anymore. You give birth to the child first, and we can talk about the rest later." Wu Yunhuan said, "Yes, I understand." A few days later, the border area between Daxia and Daqian, Xinjiang City. Lu Chen was in the study room at the Collapse Land, looking at the information collected by Jin Yiwei. Through the information, Lu Chen also realized that the plague in Daqian most likely had nothing to do with the Queen in Daqian. Queen Daqian also advocated taking the initiative to eliminate the plague, but she did so in order to accumulate more political capital for herself and to make people think that it was with her promotion that Dakian solved the plague problem. From now on, when the people of Dakian think of the plague, they will think of her, the Queen of Dakian, who solved the plague and saved the people of Dakian. Lu Chen had a feeling that Queen Dakian's increase in fame should have some special effect. Just when Lu Chen was in a daze looking at the information in his hand, Bai Qingqing's voice sounded at the door, "Your Majesty, a letter from Yanqing." Hearing this, Lu Chen came back to his senses instantly, and he also guessed what the content of the letter would be. "Bring it in." As soon as he finished speaking, Bai Qingqing entered the study and handed the letter in his hand to Lu Chen. Lu Chen took the letter in his hand, opened it and read the contents, then showed a smile. The solution was quite thorough, but it's a pity that we didn't get rid of all the Dao royal family members at once. Lu Chen also knew that killing all the people from the Dao royal family would make Wu Yunwan unhappy, but members of the Dao royal family were still a big trouble in Lu Chen's heart. If the people of the Dao royal family were like the Dai royal family, who only knew how to eat, drink and have fun all day long, Lu Chen wouldn't even think about getting rid of them. Lu Chen then put the letter he had read on his desk. Now that the matter in Yanqing has been resolved, it's time to deal with Dagan's affairs. Having said this, Lu Chen looked at Bai Qingqing and said, "Call all the generals and hold a military meeting immediately. In 2 days, we will launch a war of annihilation against Dakian." After hearing Lu Chen's words, Bai Qingqing immediately said, "Yes, Your Majesty." End of chapter. Chapter 564. I hope you won't end up like Emperor Yu by then. When a military meeting was held, the generals were still most concerned about how to deal with the plague. Although Lu Chen had long said that he had a way to solve the plague, Lu Chen's solution could only be isolation and prevention as much as possible. But what if the plague accidentally spread to their army? Xuan Yuan Yunkai glanced at the generals. She was now the commander-in-chief of a military camp, so the issues that these generals were concerned about were also her concerns. She asked directly, "Your Majesty, I am bold and want to ask Your Majesty how to deal with it. Your Majesty, please teach your subordinates about the plague so that they can prevent it in advance when they arrive on the battlefield." Hearing this, Lu Chen smiled and said, "Strange. Haven't I already passed on the methods of preventing and treating the plague to you? Have you forgotten? The demon burial technique that I taught you some time ago." After hearing this, everyone looked at me and I looked at you, and they still seemed a little unbelievable. Lu Chen said, "The outbreak in Dakian is not an ordinary plague, but caused by an evil force. The demon burial art is exactly the way to restrain this evil force." Xuan Yuan Yunkai immediately discovered a new problem. She continued, "Your Majesty, although soldiers who have practiced the demon burial art can restrain the plague, most of the soldiers in the army are ordinary soldiers. Although after the promotion of spiritual rice, there are more and more high-level warriors in Daxia, the army still has the largest number of ordinary soldiers. These ordinary soldiers do not have the ability to practice the earth-level skills such as the demon burial art. Even if Lu Chen teaches people the earth-level skills, the level skills have been simplified, and they are also unable to practice them." Lu Chen said, "You don't have to worry about this. The true energy of the demon burial art can directly resolve the plague on people. As long as there is a half-step master in a military camp, the military camp does not need to worry about the plague. And I still have a spiritual weapon to dispel the plague. When we get to the battlefield, I will dispel the plague in advance and then let the soldiers attack." Hearing this, the generals were still a little worried, but since their Majesty's words meant this, they could only choose to believe the emperor now. Lu Chen continued, "That's it for the plague. Now let's discuss the attack route." Having said this, Lu Chen's eyes fell on the map in front of him. Then he picked up a baton and began to assign tasks to various commanders on the map. At the same time, Dakian Dynasty, Royal Palace. Lu Qingkaiu, who was dressed in Xingyi, was standing next to the lotus pond, watching the fish swimming around in the lotus pond. At this time, a voice appeared behind her, "You should be calm, Daxia's army has already pressed down on the border. You're still here watching the fish? I am very curious about what kind of method Emperor Xia has to solve the plague problem." Mu Yongzi smiled and said, "Is there a possibility that he has no way to eliminate the plague, but he just doesn't take the lives of the soldiers as his life?" Lu Qingkai said, "I don't think he is such a stupid person." Although Lu Qingkai was not very clear about Lu Chen's confidence, she had heard about the precautionary measures taken by the Daxia army after approaching Daqian. The precautionary measures taken by the Daxia army were enough to prove that Lu Chen still cherished the lives of the soldiers, otherwise it would not have been possible for them to take those precautionary measures. However, preventive measures alone are absolutely not enough in Daqian, and even preventive measures cannot stop the spread of the plague. Lu Qingkai had long noticed that people from Daxia were moving around Daqian. She thought that Lu Chen must know this, so she felt that Lu Chen had other ways to suppress the spread of the plague. Of course, this is just her guess. Now it depends on whether the soldiers of Daxia will be infected with the plague when the Daxia army attacks. Then we will know whether Lu Chen has a way to eliminate the plague. At this time, Mu Yongzi asked with a smile, "Putting aside the plague issue for now, what do you think our chances of winning against Lu Chen are with the strength of the two of us?" Lu Qingkai said lightly, 10%. "Oh? Are you so confident in me?" Mu Yongzi asked. Lu Qingkai chuckled, "I don't have confidence in you, I believe in my own strength. Even without you, I will never let Lu Chen occupy Daqian." After hearing Lu Qingkai's words, Mu Yongzi smiled lightly and said nothing more. Lu Qingkai should be the avatar of some powerful person, so he is so confident, or to be precise, arrogant. It is normal for a powerful clone to look down on a person from the lower world, but if he looks down on Lu Chen, he will probably suffer a big loss when the time comes. Mu Yongzi looked at Lu Qingkai's plump figure and thought to herself, "I hope you won't end up like He Yu Huang." I don't know why, but seeing Lu Qingkai being so arrogant, Mu Yongzi wanted Lu Qingkai to be arrested by Lu Chen and then bullied by Lu Chen every night. Lu Qingkai stopped talking nonsense with Mu Yongzi at this time. She turned around and walked towards the court. As she walked, she said to the guards, "Gather the civil and military officials of the court to discuss the fight against Daxia." Seeing Lu Qingkai's leaving figure, Mu Yongzi suddenly had a strange idea. With Lu Qingkai's beauty, he should be able to attract that lustful person like Lu Chen, right? A few more days passed. Daxia officially sent troops to attack Daqian. The first city Daxia attacked was Dangzhen City. Lu Chen personally participated in the attack on Dangzhen City this time. He planned to see what the situation was like in Daqian. Soon, Lu Chen led the army to the outside of Dangzhen City. On the way to Dangzhen City, Lu Chen saw a lot of human bones on the roadside. The whole Daqian looked very desolate and depressing. As soon as Lu Chen and the others arrived at Dangzhen City, they found that there were already several people in official uniforms waiting outside Dangzhen City, holding official seals and documents of surrender. The man in the county magistrate's clothes was skinny and kept coughing uncontrollably. It was obvious at a glance that he was infected with the plague and that he would not have much time left. Lu Chen got off his horse at this time and walked directly towards the county magistrate. Seeing this scene, the generals next to Lu Chen were frightened. They quickly came over to stop Lu Chen and said, "Your Majesty, this is inappropriate. That man has obviously been infected with the plague. What if?" Lu Chen directly raised his hand to stop them from continuing. Lu Chen then said calmly, "If I don't show you how to dispel the plague, how can the soldiers really believe that I can eliminate the plague?" "This." The generals looked at me and I looked at you. In the end, they did not choose to continue to block, but gave way. Lu Chen came directly in front of the county magistrate. When he saw a young man wearing black gold armor coming, the county magistrate of Dangzhen City thought that Lu Chen was the commander-in-chief of a certain Daxia. Lu Chen was far away from the county magistrate just now, and the county magistrate of Dangzhen was already seriously ill, so he didn't hear Daxia's general calling Lu Chen Your Majesty. At this time, the Dangzhen county magistrate said tremblingly, Dangzhen county magistrate pays homage to Your Excellency. End of chapter. Chapter 565 Miracle. This is a miracle. As soon as the Dangzhen county magistrate finished speaking, Bai Qingqing next to Lu Chen immediately corrected him, This is our Majesty. Hearing this, the Dangzhen county magistrate suddenly opened his eyes, and some couldn't believe that the Emperor of Daxia actually dared to come here. I'm afraid there are very few people in Dangzhen City who are not infected with the plague now. When Emperor Xia comes to this place, isn't he afraid of being infected by the plague? Magistrate Dangzhen was also about to die now. He was not that afraid of Lu Chen. He said, Greetings to Your Majesty. Long live Your Majesty. Long live Your Majesty. This villain is extremely ill. Please forgive me for not being able to kneel down, Your Majesty. Seeing the depressed look on Magistrate Dangzhen's face, Lu Chen said lightly, It doesn't matter. Then Lu Chen asked, What was the population of your Dangzhen city before the plague broke out? The Dangzhen county magistrate replied, Your Majesty, there are 100,000 people. Dangzhen city is close to Daxia and is the only way for caravans to pass through. Therefore, before the plague broke out, Dangzhen city was still a relatively lively city. Lu Chen continued to ask, How many people are left now? Magistrate Dangzhen replied, Your Majesty, there may be less than 1,000 people. I haven't counted them recently, and I don't know the specific data. Lu Chen frowned. The plague brought by the demon was really terrifying. The originally large city of 100,000 people now had less than 1,000 people. Lu Chen continued to ask, Where are the soldiers stationed in your city? This is the only way for caravans to pass. It is also a very important city for Daqian, so Daqian used to be heavily guarded. The Dangzhen county magistrate replied, After the plague broke out, they retreated. Lu Chen was not surprised when he heard the Dangzhen county magistrate's answer. Daqian had already given up on Dangzhen city. Lu Chen then looked towards Dangzhen city. At this time, the sky above Dangzhen city seemed to be filled with a layer of black air. This was not a description of the atmosphere, but in Lu Chen's sight, there was indeed some black air, as if it's like the black gas emitted from the back of a car. Seeing this black energy, Lu Chen thought to himself, could this be what caused the plague? Lu Chen then asked Bai Qingqing on the side, Xiao Bai, do you see anything in the sky above Dangzhen city? After Bai Qingqing glanced at the sky above Dangzhen city, she found that there seemed to be nothing in the blue sky and white clouds above Dangzhen city, so she replied, Your Majesty, I didn't find anything there. Lu Chen thought to himself, could it be that only he could see it, or that only people with high realms could see it? Thinking of this, Lu Chen said to Mu Hongguang again, Dean Mu, can you see the things above Dangzhen city? Hearing Lu Chen's question, Mu Hongguang looked confused. Something over Dangzhen city? There was something in the sky above Dangzhen city. Why didn't he see anything? Mu Hongguang then replied truthfully, Your Majesty, I didn't see anything. Seeing that Mu Hongguang, who was a celestial being, also answered in the same way, Lu Chen had basically confirmed that except for himself, they could indeed not see the black air permeating the sky above Dangzhen city. It seems that these black gases are indeed a big problem. Lu Chen then took out the exorcism flag directly from the system space. As soon as the exorcism flag came out, it emitted a golden light. The next moment, all the black energy around Lu Chen was dispelled. At this time, Lu Chen discovered that a lot of the black energy on the people in Dangzhen city was gradually disappearing. As the black energy dissipated, the complexions of those infected with the plague were visibly restored to the naked eye, and their color soon returned. Magistrate Dangzhen also noticed the changes in them, and they looked at their hands in disbelief. At this time, the people in Dangzhen city were so excited that they were speechless. Magistrate Dangzhen suddenly knelt down and shouted, "A miracle, this is a miracle! Thank you, Your Majesty, for saving the people of Dangzhen County." Hearing this, the people of Dangzhen city behind the Dangzhen County magistrate also knelt down quickly, "Thank you, Your Majesty, for saving the people of Dangzhen County." At this time, not only the people of Dangzhen city were dumbfounded, but also the soldiers of Daxia were dumbfounded. In fact, they had always doubted whether their Majesty could really drive away the plague. However, they did not expect that in such a short period of time, their Majesty would cure all those infected with the plague. At this time, everyone's eyes fell on the exorcism flag in Lu Chen's hand. Apparently, it was this flag that drove away the plague. With this flag, wouldn't Daxia's army no longer have to fear the plague? For a time, the morale of Daxia's army rose sharply. Lu Chen then said to the generals behind him, "I said that I can drive away the plague. You should believe it now, right?" Having said this, Lu Chen walked directly towards Dangzhen city and said as he walked, "Spread what happened here." Bai Qingqing immediately said, "Yes, Your Majesty." Lu Chen planned to let the people of Daqian know that he had the ability to dispel the plague. In this way, if he wanted to capture other cities, he would not have to waste any troops. At that time, some city guards would take the initiative. Run to him and surrender. After Lu Chen entered Dangzhen city, he controlled the exorcism flag again. The exorcism flag flew into the air, emitting a dazzling golden light. After the golden light shone, the black energy in the entire Dangzhen city dissipated. In the blink of an eye, a few days passed. With the promotion of Jin Yiwei, what Lu Chen did in Dangzhen city also spread to various counties in Daqian. As soon as they heard that Daxia could drive away the plague, the people in various counties, even the upper-level officials, had the idea of taking refuge in Daxia. At this time, Lu Qingkai could no longer control the situation in Daqian. Within a few days, several county guards came to Dangzhen city with soldiers and surrendered directly to Lu Chen. After Lu Chen showed how to drive away the plague in front of those who took refuge, these people immediately regarded Lu Chen as the son of destiny. For a time, the calls for surrender grew louder and louder from the local area to the court in Daqian. Daqian Palace. Qianing Palace. Lu Qingkai looked at the collected intelligence, and the expression on her face became more and more angry. She did not expect that most of the Daqian territory would fall into the hands of the Xia Dynasty so quickly. Lu Chen swallowed up so much land in Dagon without spending a single soldier. The key is that after Lu Chen sent troops to Dangzhen city, he stayed in Dangzhen city and did not send troops to attack other counties in Dagon. The senior officials of the county and the county went to Dangzhen city with Daqian soldiers to find Lu Chen to surrender. This was a complete lack of regard for the royal family of Daqian and her, who was about to become the queen mother. At this time, Mu Yongzi appeared in Lu Qingkai's bedroom. Her delicate body was leaning against the pillar and she said with a smile, "It's really rare. I didn't expect you to be angry sometimes." Lu Qingkai snorted coldly, "Wait until I get rid of Lu Chen, then go and deal with those traitors." Mu Yongzi said, "I'm afraid that if you can't get rid of Lu Chen, you will get yourself involved. But having said that, you are right, Lu Chen really has a way to get rid of the plague." End of chapter. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audio Wave. Chapter 566 Lu Qingkai, it's time for the real decisive battle to begin. Hearing Mu Yongzi's words, Lu Qingkai suddenly seemed to remember something, his original serious expression became more relaxed, and his heart became calmer. Then Lu Qingkai said, "I am a little curious as to why the plague in Daqian disappeared immediately after encountering Lu Chen. I'm afraid the plague was caused by Daxia in the first place." Hearing this, Mu Yongzi smiled and said, "You know how to frame me. Even I know that the plague comes from the southern sea, but you actually want to push the plague onto Lu Chen. Lu Qingkai said calmly, it doesn't matter who does it, what matters is the result. Then she said to the guard at the door, go and find Mr. Li. Mu Yongzi asked, are you going to spread rumors that the plague was brought by Daxia? And then arouse the people's anger against Daxia. The plague in Dacian lasted for more than a year. The entire plague killed almost half of the population of Dacian. On average, almost every household died of the plague. Most people have relatives who passed away due to the plague. At this time, news suddenly came that the plague was spread by Daxia. The purpose was to rule Dacian without bloodshed, which would inevitably arouse the hatred of Dacian people towards Dacian. Lu Qingkai said expressionlessly, before Lu Chen came, the plague in Dacian lasted for more than a year. No matter what method was used, the plague could not be eliminated. As a result, as soon as Lu Chen came, the plague disappeared immediately. Don't you think this is a coincidence? I believe that the general public will also feel it is very unreasonable. Hearing this, Mu Yongzi smiled faintly, and then said, I hope your actions can change the minds of the people. Although Mu Yongzi said so, in her heart, this approach would not bring any practical effect to Dacian. You can spread rumors, and Daxia can also spread rumors. The most important thing now is that you can avoid the impact of the plague by joining Daxia. All fools know how to choose. Of course, as Mu Yongzi is Lu Qingkai's ally, he will not attack Lu Qingkai. A few days later, there is a rumor circulating in Dacian that the plague in Dacian was actually caused by Emperor Xia, with the purpose of annexing Dacian. The best evidence is that before Emperor Xia came to Dacian, the plague in Dacian still existed. As a result, Emperor Xia came to Dacian, and the plague in Dacian disappeared. There is such a coincidence in this world. Only if the plague was caused by Daxia, would it be possible for Daxia to know how to eliminate the plague so easily. In order to annex Dacian, Daxia actually did such an inhumane thing and killed countless people in Dacian. The people of Dacian could not recognize thieves as their fathers. Dang Xingken. Lu Chen's temporary study room. Lu Chen was looking through some memorials sent from Yancheng. At this time, Bai Qingqing said outside, Your Majesty, Commander Qin is back. Ever since Qin Yushan was sent to Dacian to investigate the plague, Qin Yushan has been staying in Dacian and established many forces in Dacian. Lu Chen put down the memorial in his hand and said, Come in. The next moment, Qin Yushan quickly entered the study, then saluted Lu Chen and said, Your Majesty, long live your Majesty. Lu Chen nodded, no courtesy. Qin Yushan said, Your Majesty, I apologize for your incompetence. In the end, the specific cause of the Dacian plague was not found. Although they have found that the Dacian plague is related to a box, Jin Yiwei still knows nothing about where the box is now and why it caused the plague. Lu Chen said, It doesn't matter, I already know the source of the plague. Is there any new information about Dacian recently, or is there any news about the Queen of Dacian? Qin Yushan said, Back to your Majesty, Queen Dacian has been spreading rumors everywhere recently, saying that you spread the plague, and inciting the people of Dacian to fight against Daxia. Hearing this, Lu Chen showed a smile. As he expected, Queen Dacian really did this. However, he had already thought about how to deal with this rumor, and then Lu Chen said to Qin Yushan, You will spread the news next, saying that the reason why the plague appeared in Dacian is because the witch is in power, and God is punishing me. Now I am the right man has come, so the plague has been driven away. Only I can subdue the demon girl. Once I subdue the demon girl, the plague in Dacian will be driven away. Upon hearing this, Qin Yushan immediately said, Yes, Your Majesty, my subordinates will do it now. The people of Dacian must be very clear about who the witch Lu Chen refers to. As long as it is said that the witch is in power, the people of Dacian will immediately think of Lu Qingkai, the Queen of Dacian. In addition, the tradition of this world is that if a woman is in power, she will suffer divine punishment. As long as the rumor spreads, the people of Daqian will soon recognize his statement. By then, Lu Qingkai's position as queen would not be so comfortable. After receiving Lu Chen's order, Qin Yushan put the witch in power in the shortest possible time, confusing the court and causing God to punish him, which spread throughout Daqian. Qin Yushan has been building an intelligence network since he came to Daqian. There are no longer many Jin Yue in Daqian. Spreading such rumors is the easiest thing for Jin Yue. It was exactly as Lu Chen expected. Compared with the theory that the plague in Daqian was brought by Daxia, the people of Daqian believed more that it was because of the evil woman in Daqian who was in power, thus attracting divine punishment. For a time, Dagan was full of complaints, accusing Lu Qingkai, the demon queen, of confusing Chao Gang and causing Dagan such misery. As a result, more people took the initiative to go to Dangzhen city to surrender to Lu Chen. Among the people who surrendered later, there were even members of the royal family of Daqian. The Daqian royal family are not fools. They can also see that Daqian has run out of energy. The most important thing is that Daqian is indeed in the hands of a woman now. Those members of the royal family are suppressed by Lu Qingkai, the demon queen. With the support of the Daqian royal family, Lu Chen immediately pulled out the members of the Daqian royal family, stepped up publicity, and told the people of Daqian that the Daqian royal family could not stand the demon queen and chose to side with Daxia. To the side of destiny. Finally, Lu Qingkai couldn't bear it anymore. Qianing Palace. Lu Qingkai looked at the information in his hand and became furious. His aura increased. The next moment, the information in his hand was crushed to pieces by the spiritual energy in his body. Seeing Lu Qingkai's anger, Mu Yongzi smiled and said, "I have long said that your method is of no use to Lu Chen. Besides, if you want to defeat Daxia and Lu Chen, you have to rely on your strength. What use can these little tricks do?" Hearing Mu Yongzi's words, Lu Qingkai said coldly, "You are right, this world has to rely on strength to speak for itself. After dragging on with Daxia for so long, it's time for the real decisive battle to begin." End of chapter. Chapter 567 Entertainment. Like how you entertained Emperor Yu. Since whens can't beat Lu Chen, let's go to Wu. Lu Qingkai didn't believe that Lu Chen could defeat him with force. Originally, she did not send troops initially, mainly because of the popular support of Daqian. She needed the popular support of Daqian to consolidate the national destiny. As a result, now that the people are completely disheartened, there is no need for her to continue pretending, and she can just start a war. One battle will determine the outcome. As long as Lu Chen is defeated by her, not to mention Daqian, the entire Daxia, including the lands conquered by Daxia, will also become hers. Lu Qingkai gave an order, and Daqian's army quickly completed its assembly. Half a month later, Daqian's army took the initiative and went straight to Dangzhen city, preparing to fight to the death with the Daxia army in Dangzhen city. When Lu Chen heard that Lu Qingkai had summoned Daqian's army to take the initiative, he was a little surprised. He originally thought that Lu Qingkai would wait until Daxia's army arrived in Daqian's capital before he would engage in a decisive battle with Daxia's army. But in the end Lu Qingkai actually took the initiative to attack. It seems that this woman really has no patience and wants to end this war as soon as possible. Indeed, since some members of the royal family of Daqian took the initiative to defect to Daxia, Lu Qingkai's position has been unstable. Now there are many voices in the court of Daqian asking Lu Qingkai to return power to the royal family of Daqian. Although Lu Qingkai can suppress those voices that oppose her, in the long run, it will be extremely detrimental to her. Lu Chen was not in a hurry, he was waiting for Lu Qingkai's arrival in Dangzhen city. He was looking forward to it now. It was rumored that Queen Lu was the most beautiful woman in the country. She was so graceful that she was a top beauty. Lu Chen suspected that this Lu Qingkai was probably a woman with a score of 90. But he was not sure whether Lu Qingkai was still innocent. After all, she had been the queen of Jianhuang for so many years. If Lu Qingkai was still innocent, then Jianhuang would be too useless. Soon, Lu Qingkai led Daqian's army to arrive outside Dangzhen city. At this time, Dangzhen city had a completely new look. The flag of Daxia was hung on the city wall. People were coming and going on the streets. The whole city seemed full of vitality. The gate there were also many caravans and carriages coming and going. Since Lu Chen entered Dangzhen city, the caravans from Daqian have poured into Dangzhen city again, and the caravans from Daxia have also entered Dangzhen city to do business with Daqian merchants. It is precisely because of this that Dangzhen city was able to change from a dead city to the lively scene it is now in such a short period of time. When the people at the city gate heard that Lu Qingkai had led the Daqian army to attack Dangzhen city, they immediately began to complain. This demon queen actually has the nerve to come and attack Dangzhen city. That's right, if it weren't for Emperor Xia, we would have died of the plague long ago. Those soldiers in Dagan have gone crazy, and now they are still following the demon queen. Maybe he was bewitched by that demon queen. The people at the city gate complained and withdrew from Dangzhen city in an orderly manner. They still have great faith in the strength of the Daxia army. In their view, the demon queen is a heaven-defying existence, and Lu Chen is the son of destiny, so it is impossible for the demon queen to defeat the son of destiny. At the same time, Lu Chen also heard about the arrival of Lu Qingkai's army outside Dangzhen city. He quickly put on his armor and went directly to the city wall of Dangzhen city. Not long after, a luxury carriage with 8 horses appeared outside Dangzhen city. Seeing the carriage, Lu Chen showed a smile. Then he gathered his spiritual power in his chest and said to the person inside the carriage, "Is the person coming here Queen Dagan Liu? I heard that Queen Lu is extremely beautiful and has the talent to conquer a country and a city. I wonder if I will be lucky enough to see her today." After hearing what he said, Lu Qingkai sneered in the carriage and said to Mu Yongzi on the side, "They all say that Lu Chen is a lecher. After meeting him today, I have learned a lot." The two armies were fighting. As the emperor of the enemy country, Lu Chen wanted to see how beautiful the queen of the enemy country was. What was the difference between this and a cowardly king? Lu Qingkai continued, "It is incredible that such a king can actually destroy De Wu and Daiyu." Mu Yongzi chuckled and said, "Don't look down on him yet. He is indeed a lustful person, but just because he is lustful doesn't mean he has no strength." Lu Qingkai ignored Mu Yongzi's words, but concentrated his spiritual power on Danshan, and said loudly to Lu Chen on the Dangzhen city tower, "Daxia first spread the plague everywhere in Dagan, and now he sends troops to attack me in Dagan. It is an insult. I have no one to work with." After Lu Qingkai's voice came out, Lu Chen was stunned for a moment. Lu Qingkai's voice was extremely cold and crisp, and Lu Chen could basically tell what kind of woman she was from her voice. Lu Chen said, "The plague has never been spread in Daxia. Queen Lu should be very clear about why the plague appeared in Daqian. Queen Lu usurped the throne and angered God. God just sent down the plague, but Queen Lu wanted to shirk the responsibility for the plague to other dynasties. Isn't it a little too beautiful? I don't think the people in Daqian are fools." Hearing Lu Chen's words, Lu Qingkai snorted. Many people in Daqian now think like Lu Chen just said, thinking that she, the demon queen, is trying to divert attention and continue to bewitch them. But Lu Qingkai knew very well that this was just Daxia secretly guiding the people of Daqian to think in that direction. It's useless to say more. Only by getting rid of Lu Chen can she regain the recognition of the people of Daqian. Thinking of this, Lu Qingkai said coldly, "I want to see if your strength is as powerful as your mouth." After the words fell, Lu Qingkai immediately ordered the army, "Form up." The next moment, Daqian's soldiers immediately took action, and before long, they set up the Shangqing dragon formation. Seeing this familiar formation, Lu Chen smiled and said, it seems that there is an old acquaintance of mine next to Queen Lu. Lu Chen had long known that Mu Yongzi was by Lu Qingkai's side, and he only used the Shangqing Tenglong formation to mention Mu Yongzi. Hearing this, Mu Yongzi was no longer silent. She chuckled and said, "Emperor Xia, long time no see." Lu Chen said, "Miss Mu left in such a hurry last time that I didn't have time to entertain you properly." "Miss Mu, don't run so fast this time." Mu Yongzi said, "Entertainment? Like how you entertained Emperor Yu? Then I can't afford such hospitality." Mu Yongzi also heard that since Lu Chen captured Emperor Yu, he had been humiliating Emperor Yu in the Jinluan Palace every day. Mu Yongzi even wondered whether Emperor Yu had become pregnant by Lu Chen. After hearing the conversation between the two, Lu Qingkai seemed a little impatient. She said directly to Mu Yongzi, "Stop wasting time, take action." Mu Yongzi then opened the carriage door and walked out. The moment he opened the door, Lu Chen also saw Lu Qingkai in the carriage. End of chapter. Chapter 568. It seems that Lu Chen has fallen in love with you. Lu Qingkai did not wear the phoenix robe that symbolized the queen's status, nor did she wear a phoenix crown. Instead, she wore a green cloud dress embroidered with lotus flowers. The green gauze dress tightly wrapped her plump body, making her look looming, and her whole body was full of the charm of a mature woman. She had her hair in a bun on her head, and her beautiful face was cold and expressionless. Before Lu Chen could use the system to identify it, he knew that Lu Qingkai had definitely exceeded 90 points. However, Lu Chen still went through the process and opened the system to identify Lu Qingkai's identity information. Name, Lu Qingkai. Identity, Queen Daqian, a foreigner, over 100,000 years old, in the realm of creation, suspected to be a powerful clone of the fairy world. After she fell into this world, she lost contact with the main body. She tried to steal the energy of this world. Yunlei left this world, so she pretended to marry Emperor Qian and become the queen. However, she had never slept with Emperor Qian and was still innocent. In her opinion, Emperor Xia was a stumbling block for her to leave this world, so we must get rid of Emperor Xia. Rating, 100. Favorability, 0. Seeing Lu Qingkai's introduction, Lu Chen laughed. 100%, higher than he expected. If he were to communicate with her, he would probably be even more unable to control himself. But having said that, Lu Qingkai's background is probably a bit strong. He is over 100,000 years old, and he is also the clone of a powerful person in the immortal world. If he really fucks Lu Qingkai, and even gets pregnant, then the main body will knowing this, I'm afraid they will directly send someone to hunt him down. Not only would they send people, but they might even come in person. Lu Chen felt a little wary when he thought of this. This was the first time that he met a woman with such a terrifying background in this world. Even Yun Xianxian did not have such a terrifying background. At this time, Mu Yongzi had already come out of the carriage and saw Lu Chen's eyes staring straight at Lu Qingkai inside the carriage. Mu Yongzi teased Lu Qingkai and said, "It seems that Lu Chen has fallen in love with you. You have to be careful, if we are defeated, no matter who you are, I am afraid he will make you his female slave." Lu Qingkai sneered, not taking Mu Yongzi's words seriously at all. First of all, she didn't think she would be defeated. Even if she was defeated, with her strength, it would be easy to escape from the battlefield. She wanted to leave here, and no one could stop her. What's more, she discovered that Lu Chen was just a fake heavenly being. It was even more foolish for a false heavenly being to keep her. Mu Yongzi then lightly jumped with both feet and jumped directly to the roof of the carriage. She smiled and said to Lu Chen, "Last time, I was not able to see Emperor Xia's more powerful moves. I wonder if I will have a chance this time." As he spoke, the bell on Mu Yongzi's ankle immediately shook, and sound waves spread out. Although Mu Yongzi had taught the Shangqing Tenglong formation to Daqian's army, Mu Yongzi did not think that the Shangqing Tenglong formation can the formation do any substantial harm to Lu Chen and the Daxia army? The most troublesome thing now is the earth-level spiritual weapon in Lu Chen's hand. The best way to get rid of Lu Chen is to have one person hold Lu Chen down, divert Lu Chen's attention, and then another person takes the opportunity to make a sneak attack. When Mu Yongzi was attacking, he glanced at the strong men around Lu Chen. It seemed that there was only one heavenly being beside Lu Chen. If it were a celestial being, when Lu Qingkai attacked later, he should be able to easily bypass that celestial being and then attack Lu Chen directly. As long as Lu Chen dies, everything will be over. For strong men of their level, Daxia's troops are dispensable and pose no threat to them. Now the armies of both sides are the same. The role of the army is only to clean up the battlefield after the battle between the strong ones. Other than that, it is just a background board. It can be said that the soldiers of both sides are just watching the show. However, compared to Daxia's army, Daqian's Shangqing Tenglong formation was still somewhat useful and could attract Lu Chen's attention to a certain extent. At this time, Daqian's army took the lead in attacking. Several golden dragons appeared in phantom, and then went straight to Dangzhen city. Seeing this scene, Lu Chen was not nervous at all. He took out the god-killing spear unhurriedly. Aim at the giant dragons in the sky and shoot. After a golden beam of light was emitted, the golden dragon phantoms dissipated instantly. The next moment, Daqian's soldiers were hit by the Shangqing dragon formation. They fell to the ground one by one, vomiting blood, and some died directly. Lu Qingkai frowned slightly when she saw the god-killing spear in Lu Chen's hand. This strange spiritual weapon made her feel a strong threat. It's not that she has never seen earth-level spiritual weapons. Not only earth-level spiritual weapons, she has even seen heaven-level spiritual weapons. Moreover, she also had earth-level spiritual weapons before. It's just that those earth-level spiritual weapons are not as unique as the earth-level spiritual weapon in Lu Chen's hand. That earth-level spiritual weapon can easily convert the user's spiritual power into dozens of times more lethal spiritual power, and the efficiency is very high. It is more terrifying than those heaven-level spiritual swords in the advanced world of immortality. Is this really an earth-level spiritual weapon? No wonder Mu Yongzi said that Lu Chen was difficult to deal with. It seemed that she was not exaggerating. It was indeed difficult to deal with him. If he was hit once by the light emitted by the spiritual weapon, he might be seriously injured even if he did not die. After seeing Lu Chen shoot, Mu Yongzi immediately took action, and the solid sound waves turned into sword energy and flew directly towards Lu Chen. Lu Chen did not block the sword energy. Mu Hongguang behind him immediately took action and swung his sword, and all the sword energy was scattered. At this time, Lu Qingkai was still sitting in the carriage, waiting for the opportunity to come. There would be no benefit if she took action now. Mu Yongzi and Lu Chen had just fought, and neither of them was injured yet. She was still counting on them both being injured, and then going out to reap the benefits. When Mu Yongzi saw that Mu Hongguang had blocked her attack, she immediately raised her jade hand and concentrated all her spiritual power on the fingertips. Lu Chen thought she was going to attack directly, but then a Guqin silhouette suddenly appeared in Mu Yongzi's hand. Mu Yongzi then put his fingers on the Guqin and waved it gently. The next moment, dozens of sound waves flew towards Lu Chen. Mu Hongguang still blocked all Mu Yongzi's attacks with just a slight wave of his sword, but Lu Chen and the others soon discovered the problem. Mu Yongzi's fingers moved faster and faster, and the number of sound waves increased. Mu Hongguang's defense can no longer keep up with Mu Yongzi's offensive rhythm. Just when Lu Chen was thinking about whether to take action and shoot Mu Yongzi directly, suddenly, a strange sound from the Guqin came to his ears, and his whole brain froze, as if he was being pulled into some memory. Same among them. After seeing Lu Chen distracted, Lu Qingkai could no longer hold back in the carriage. She originally wanted to sew up Mu Yongzi and Lu Chen before taking action, but Lu Chen's earth-level spiritual weapon made her very afraid. She was worried that if she missed this opportunity, it would be difficult to kill Lu Chen again. Immediately, Lu Qingkai's body flew out of the carriage. The next moment, she gathered her spiritual power in her palms and shouted coldly, "Watching the moon with a broken rainbow." End of chapter. Chapter 569 Lu Qingkai's Little Thoughts. In broad daylight, a huge red moon appeared over Dangzhen city. Immediately afterwards, the moon emitted a red beam of light and headed straight for Lu Chen, who was distracted. Seeing that the red beam of light was about to touch Lu Chen's body, Lu Chen came back to his senses in an instant. The corners of his mouth raised slightly. If he hadn't practiced soul control, he might have really killed Mu Yun today. Xi's way. Mu Yungzi really likes to control people. When she catches Mu Yungzi later, she will be tempted to watch him use soul control skills to deal with her every day. Lu Chen then picked up the god-killing spear, pointed it at the red beam of light in the sky, and said to Mu Hongguang, "Dean Mu, transfer your spiritual power to me immediately." After hearing Lu Chen's order, Mu Hongguang quickly came behind Lu Chen and directly transmitted his spiritual power to Lu Chen. After Lu Chen possessed the majestic spiritual power in his body, he poured the spiritual power into the god-killing gun. Seeing the red light beam getting closer and closer, Lu Chen immediately pulled the trigger. The next moment, a golden beam of light came out from the god-killing spear. The moment the beam flew out, it turned into a beam of light. The golden beam of light collided with the beam of light emitted by the red moon in the sky, causing an explosion in an instant. The violent explosion raised dust all over the sky. It took an unknown amount of time before people's vision slowly became clear. When the dust fell to the ground, only a few soldiers on both sides died, and there was no problem with the main combat strength. Seeing that Lu Chen woke up so quickly, Lu Qingkai said coldly to Mu Yungzi on the carriage, "Is this all you have?" Originally, she thought Mu Yungzi had completely controlled Lu Chen. She had already used her most powerful skills. However, Lu Chen woke up so quickly. She even doubted whether Mu Yungzi had controlled Lu Chen. Hearing Lu Qingkai's question, Mu Yungzi was not angry, but said with a smile, "How about you contain him, and I will attack." Lu Qingkai said coldly, "No need." While speaking, Lu Qingkai put her hands together again, and before Mu Yungzi could take action, she used Ken Hong Wanjiu again. Although the earth-level spiritual weapon was extremely powerful, it consumed a lot of energy precisely because the power was so great. The fact that the heavenly beings around Lu Chen transmitted spiritual power to Lu Chen proved Lu Qingkai's conjecture. Since the opponent's consumption is huge, as long as he can consume the spiritual power in Guanglukan and that heavenly being, he can also get rid of Lu Chen. Although she is only a clone and her strength is suppressed, if she compares the amount of spiritual power in her body, she will definitely have more than a pseudo-celestial being plus a celestial being. The next moment, a huge red moon appeared in the sky again, and this time the moon was even bigger than before. The sun was covered by this red moon, and the entire Dangzhen city was illuminated by the light of the red moon. It's like the end of the world, very depressing. Lu Chen thought to himself, "Is this woman willing to die?" He actually has to use the strength of the creation realm. If he uses the strength of the creation realm in this world, he is likely to be attacked by heaven. This is why Mu Yungzi has not used his full strength in the creation realm. If Mu Yungzi really used all his strength, he might not be able to hurt Lu Chen, but once she used it, the disaster would come. Although this is a world with incomplete rules, the power of the heavenly tribulation cannot be completely resisted by the creation realm. The resistance can definitely be resisted, and the heavenly tribulation will not be directly killed, but it will eventually be seriously injured. The realm going backwards, if a slightly stronger enemy appeared at this time, she would not be far from death. In fact, Lu Qingkai did not really use the strength of the creation realm. She also knew the laws of heaven in this world, but she did use more spiritual power this time than before. Lu Chen raised the god-killing spear without hesitation and pointed it at the red full moon in the sky. At this time, the full moon emitted a red beam of light. Lu Chen did not wait this time and directly pulled the trigger. The moment the beam of the god-killing spear flew out, it was directly enlarged and turned into a huge light beam just like before. Then the two light beams collided and another violent explosion occurred. The entire sky above Dangzhen city was once again covered in dust, but at this moment, Lu Chen instantly noticed something was wrong. He felt that his life was threatened, and the cells in his body began to tremble, as if a disaster was imminent. Lu Chen immediately raised his head and looked into the dust, and sure enough he saw a red full moon appearing again, but it was not obvious after being covered by the dust. Lu Chen laughed in his heart. This woman actually wanted to carry out a sneak attack. Lu Chen did not indulge her. He pulled the trigger again, and another beam of light shot out. This time, the full moon was defeated before it even formed. But soon a full moon formed again in the sky. Just when Lu Chen was about to pull the trigger again, his mind froze and he instantly understood Lu Qingkai's intention. This woman wants to use this method to consume him to death. In this lower world, for cultivators like them, what is the most important thing is spiritual energy. If the spiritual energy in their bodies is consumed in large quantities, and the spiritual energy in this world is so scarce, they will definitely not be able to absorb the surrounding spiritual energy and convert it into spiritual energy in their bodies in a short period of time. Once the spiritual energy in their bodies is exhausted and they are unable to replenish it in time, their fate can be imagined. At this time, Mu Hongguang said, "Your Majesty, I have very little spiritual power left." Hearing this, the corners of Lu Chen's mouth slightly raised. It seemed that just as he thought, Lu Qingkai was indeed planning to consume all the spiritual energy in their bodies. Lu Chen glanced at the distance and thought to himself that he originally didn't want to hurt Lu Qingkai, but Lu Qingkai didn't have a good heart and just used his hands. He actually wanted to kill him. In this case, he can only act cruelly. Compared with Lu Qingkai's technique, Lu Chen's attack speed when using the god-killing spear is faster. The technique requires time to prepare, but after Lu Chen instills spiritual power into the god-killing spear, he only needs to pull the trigger. If Lu Chen really wanted to attack, Lu Qingkai and the others would only have to defend passively. Lu Chen raised the god-killing spear at this time and pointed it at Lu Qingkai in the distance. He reduced the spiritual power of the god-killing spear and then directly pulled the trigger. A beam of light suddenly burst out from the god-killing spear. Lu Qingkai originally planned to continue consuming Lu Chen, but suddenly, her heartbeat suddenly accelerated, and a sense of danger surged into her heart. Mu Yongzi, who was standing not far from her, also had the same feeling. Mu Yongzi understood something instantly. No, Lu Chen took action against us. At this time, a huge beam of light passed through the dust and pushed away all the surrounding dust, appearing in front of Lu Qingkai and Mu Yongzi. Seeing the beam of light in front of them, the two women were stunned for a moment, and they quickly gathered their spiritual energy to resist the beam of light. With their strength in the creation realm, there is really no big problem in blocking this beam of light. Lu Chen also deliberately reduced his spiritual power just now. But even so, their bodies were also blown away. End of chapter. Chapter 570 Lu Qingkai, what do you want? Lu Chen previously used the god-killing spear and fired it towards the sky, so the power was not obvious, but this time it was different. He shot it flatly, and the beam of light from the god-killing spear directly wiped out Dagan's army. Half. When the Dakian soldiers saw the soldiers reduced to ashes, they were so frightened that they quickly knelt down. Just one attack directly destroyed half of the army. Who would dare to resist such a force? At this time, Lu Qingkai and Mu Yongzi were both flying into the air, and their condition was very bad. In order to block the shot just now, they almost consumed all the spiritual power in their bodies. Even so, they also suffered internal injuries, and their clothes were full of holes, exposing large areas of white. Mu Yongzi said angrily, Lu, look at the good things you have done. Originally, that guy knew how to cherish the beauty and did not attack us directly. But you insisted on forcing him and almost killed me too. After hearing Mu Yongzi's complaints, Lu Qingkai snorted coldly, and then said, don't you have other ways to kill him without draining all the spiritual power in his body? This. Mu Yongzi frowned and said nothing. Indeed, if they did not consume all of Lu Chen's spiritual power, it would be difficult for them to kill Lu Chen directly with the earth-level spiritual weapon. At this time, Mu Yongzi suddenly thought of something, and then said, we can't kill Lu Chen because we can't get close. Since Lu Chen is attracted by your beauty, why not just surrender directly? In this way, there is a chance to get close to Lu Chen. Once you get close to Lu Chen, you can directly kill him. Hearing this, Lu Qingkai said coldly, then why didn't you go? You are also pretty, and I believe that the lecher is also interested in your body. They are not fools. Now the spiritual energy in their bodies has been almost consumed. The spiritual energy in this world is very scarce. It will take them an unknown amount of time to regain their strength again. If they were to get close to Lu Chen now, with the little spiritual power in their bodies, they might not be able to kill Lu Chen with one move. If Lu Chen couldn't be killed with one move, when Lu Chen reacted, the two of them would be dead. Just as the two women were arguing, two figures suddenly appeared not far behind them. After feeling the breath of the two people, the two immediately turned their heads. As a result, they turned around and found that Lu Chen and Mu Hongguang were standing on a stone, watching them. Lu Chen smiled and said at this time, you two, do you want to come down and have a chat? While speaking, Lu Chen had already raised the muzzle of his gun. Seeing the black muzzle, the two women were stunned. They had consumed a lot of spiritual power just now. If they escaped now, they might not be as fast as the spiritual weapon that could fire the beam. The speed is fast. If their escape speed did not exceed the speed of the beam emitted by the earth-level spiritual weapon, they would probably be seriously injured next. With Lu Chen pointing a gun at them, the two women finally had no choice but to compromise, and then they fell to the ground. Lu Qingkai asked coldly, what do you want? There is no doubt that Dagan lost this war, they lost, and it will be up to Lu Chen to deal with them. If this lecher really wanted to do something to them, Lu Qingkai wouldn't mind dying together with Lu Chen. Lu Chen said with a smile, all the soldiers of Dakian have surrendered. It was you who lost. After hearing this, Mu Yongzi said with a smile, then what is your majesty going to do with us too? Is he going to do with us like he did with Emperor Yu? Mu Yongzi didn't look scared at all. Her voice was ethereal and very comfortable. Lu Chen wished he could take care of Mu Yongzi right now. Lu Chen smiled and replied, if you want me to do this to you, it's not impossible. Lu Qingkai said at this time, I am the clone of a powerful person in the world of advanced cultivation. If you dare to do that kind of thing to me, once the master knows that Leng Gong is in trouble, you will definitely be hunted down endlessly. I advise you'd better think before you act. Lu Chen said disapprovingly, even if you don't say it, I know that you are a powerful clone. But even if you are a clone, what can you do? You are now disconnected from your main body. Even if you die, I'm afraid your main body won't be able to sense it. Hearing Lu Chen's words, Lu Qingkai frowned. This guy actually knew about the disconnection between her and the main body. Could it be? Lu Qingkai suddenly turned to look at Mu Yongzi and asked coldly, did you tell him about my affairs? Mu Yongzi smiled and said, I have no habit of betraying allies. I have told you a long time ago that he is not an ordinary person and knows a lot of things. Lu Chen continued, you don't need to know how I know. I will give you two ways now. One is to surrender to me, and the other is to be captured alive by me and then become my female slave for my daily enjoyment. This. Mu Yongzi and Lu Qingkai were stunned at the same time. They thought that the second way Lu Chen said was to die, but it turned out that this guy was determined to possess their bodies. As an emperor, he could not be so lustful. Who? Mu Yongzi asked at this time. I am very curious, what is the difference between the two? Lu Chen said with a smile, of course there is a difference. If you surrender voluntarily, I will not restrict your freedom. At least you can go wherever you want in the future. But if you are caught by me, you will be imprisoned in my palace for the rest of your life and become my playthings. Hearing Lu Chen's words, Lu Qingkai sneered and was about to say harsh words, but then Mu Yongzi's voice suddenly appeared in his head. Queen Lu, don't be impulsive. This is the best opportunity for us. We can use some excuses to prevent him from touching our bodies. After we regain some strength, we can assassinate him. After hearing Mu Yongzi's words, Lu Qingkai thought about it and realized that this was not impossible. Anyway, she and Mu Yongzi are both in the creation realm. As long as they recover their strength, they have no problem escaping. They were just sneak attacked by Lu Chen, which caused them to consume a lot of spiritual power. Now there is no way to escape. Lu Qingkai then said, okay, I can take over Daqian and return it to Daxia. But I have some requirements. Lu Chen said with a smile, Queen Lu, you have to recognize your position. You are the surrendering party now. Lu Qingkai frowned, and was about to say something when he was interrupted by Mu Yongzi's words. Mu Yongzi did not want to be disturbed by Lu Qingkai and lose the chance to surrender. We surrender unconditionally. But His Majesty must keep his word and cannot restrict our freedom. Lu Chen said with a smile, this is natural, the Emperor has no joke. However, before you surrender, you need to take something. End of chapter. Chapter 571 Ziobai, pour a cup of tea for your two future sisters. Hearing Lu Chen's words, the two women's hearts tightened and their eyebrows furrowed slightly. 69shux. Com. Take something? Could this guy be trying to get the two of them to take some poison? Although the poisons in this lower world can basically be expelled from the body through spiritual power, Lu Chen is not an ordinary person, and there is a high possibility that he is not from this world. There is probably a higher level in him. Poison in the world of immortality. And there is another possibility that this guy is planning to give them that kind of medicine, and then the two of them will have no choice but to let him play with them. In their current weak state, if they were really drugged, it would probably take at least 2 hours to force the drug out of their bodies. When these 2 hours are over, they will not know that they have been drugged. How many times had this lecher been tortured? Mu Yongzi immediately said, Your Majesty, are you planning to give us Hehuansen? Hearing this, Lu Chen smiled and said, I'm not that despicable. You are all strong men in the creation realm. Although you have surrendered now, once your strength recovers, I will definitely not be your opponent. If you suddenly assassinate me, I am afraid that I will not even have time to take out the spiritual weapon. So I need a guarantee. Don't worry, what I give you to drink is not harmful to you. You are already in the realm of creation, I believe you can see it. At this time, Bai Qingqing appeared in the distance carrying a kettle. Lu Chen had just predicted that the two women would probably pretend to surrender, so he asked Bai Qingqing to prepare dragon and phoenix tea in advance. After Bai Qingqing came over, Lu Chen immediately said, Xiao Bai, pour a cup of tea for your two future sisters. Upon hearing this, Bai Qingqing poured 2 cups of tea without hesitation, and then brought them to Lu Qingkai and Mu Yongzi. When the two women saw the tea in Bai Qingqing's hand, they didn't take it immediately, but looked at it again and again. After the two of them made preliminary judgments, this tea seemed to be just ordinary spiritual tea, and there didn't seem to be anything wrong with it. Why did Lu Chen ask the two of them to drink ordinary spiritual tea? Then the two women took the spiritual tea from Bai Qingqing's hand, and then continued to use their spiritual power to explore the condition of the tea. After several investigations, they finally felt that this was ordinary spiritual tea, which was not poisonous or harmful. But this is a bit strange. The purpose of Lu Chen letting them drink this thing should be to control them and prevent them from assassinating her directly when they recover their strength. If this is the case, Lu Chen should give them poison. As long as they were poisoned and Lu Chen had the antidote, they would not dare to act rashly. Or Lu Chen could give them poison that blocks their power, but this tea doesn't have the ability to block their power at first glance. Lu Chen saw that the two women were holding tea and seemed a little afraid to drink it, so he said, "Why, you two don't dare to drink it? Is it possible that you are pretending to surrender just to get close to me and then find an opportunity to assassinate me?" Seeing that Lu Chen expressed their inner thoughts at once, the two women seemed to understand something. There was indeed nothing wrong with the tea. Lu Chen probably wanted to use this tea to test whether they really surrendered. If the two of them don't dare to drink, it shows that they must have been thinking of assassinating him before surrendering, so they were afraid of being controlled. If the two of them drank, it would prove that the two of them had indeed surrendered. Since it was ordinary spiritual tea, there was nothing to be afraid of. Then the two women picked up the teacups at the same time and drank the tea in one gulp. After drinking tea, Mu Yongzi said with a smile, "Your Majesty, now you should believe that we have really surrendered, right?" Lu Chen smiled and said, "Okay, I believe it." Seeing Lu Chen's smile, the two women were confused and believed it. There couldn't be any deceit in it, right? Then they quickly felt their bodies. It turned out that there was nothing wrong with their bodies. Not only was there no problem, the spiritual tea seemed to have helped them regain some of their spiritual power, refresh themselves and eliminate fatigue. Could it be that this guy really tested them with a cup of ordinary spiritual tea, and now that they have passed his test, he believes in them? That's not right. Could Lu Chen be such a naive person? After all, he is also an emperor. How could he not have any scheming at all? It always feels very suspicious. Lu Chen's eyes fell on Lu Qingqiu's frosty face at this time. He said to Lu Qingqiu, "Since you have surrendered, then prepare to surrender your credentials. I will return to Daqian capital with you." Lu Qingqiu said coldly, "Okay." Then Lu Chen said, "Okay, now you two can go to Dangzhen city with me to stay for a day, and we will leave for Daqian capital early tomorrow morning." As soon as he finished speaking, Lu Chen turned around and walked towards Dangzhen city. Soon he passed by Lu Qingqiu and Mu Yongzi. When Lu Chen passed by Lu Qingqiu suddenly raised her palm. She felt that now was the best chance to get rid of Lu Chen. Lu Chen now relaxed his vigilance, thinking that they had surrendered and turned their backs to each other. In addition, they are now so close, if they take action now, their chances of success are very high. As long as Lu Chen is eliminated, there won't be that many things to do later. However, as soon as she raised her hand, she was directly grabbed by Mu Yongzi's hand. Seeing that his wrist was tightly grasped by Mu Yongzi, Lu Qingqiu immediately turned his head, looked at Mu Yongzi coldly, and asked via voice transmission, "What do you mean?" Mu Yongzi sent a message and said, "I don't want to be killed by you. You don't think Lu Chen really believes in us so easily, do you? If you take action now, I can guarantee that he will be able to react instantly and take action to kill both of us. What do you think you are doing in such a hurry? The spiritual power in both of our bodies is almost exhausted now. Wouldn't it be better to wait until we have recovered our spiritual power and are fully confident before taking action?" Lu Qingqiu thought for a moment and felt that what Mu Yongzi said made sense. It was unlikely that Lu Chen would trust them so quickly. As he passed by him, he was probably testing them. If they took action now, they might be killed instantly by Lu Chen using that spiritual weapon. Thinking of this, Lu Qingqiu lowered his hand again. In fact, Lu Chen had no such thoughts at all. Lu Qingqiu and Mu Yongzi, who drank Dragon Phoenix tea, no longer posed much of a threat to him. Lu Qingqiu and Mu Yongzi turned around at the same time and followed Lu Chen back to Dangzhen City. After seeing Lu Chen capture Lu Qingqiu, the Demon Queen, the people of Daqian in Dangzhen City cheered, thinking that the Demon Queen was finally captured, the plague should be gone soon, and Daqian would return to normal. After returning to Dangzhen City, Lu Chen brought Lu Qingqiu and Mu Yongzi into the study. He did not do anything excessive. He mainly asked them to come to the study to talk about something serious. End of chapter. Chapter 572. The Demon Resurrects. Seeing Lu Chen taking them to the study, Mu Yongzi and Lu Qingqiu were a little confused. What else did this guy want to do? After Lu Chen entered the study, he sat on the chair behind the desk and looked at these two beauties. Lu Qingqiu asked impatiently, "Didn't you say you would give us freedom? Why did you bring us here?" Lu Chen replied, "Of course I have something important to tell you." Mu Yongzi asked curiously, "What important thing?" Lu Chen asked back, "Have you two fairies ever heard of monsters like Heavenly Demon?" Hearing this question, the two women were startled. Demon? That is the most terrifying existence in the world of cultivation. The demon feeds on the monks and spreads fear everywhere, bringing all kinds of disasters to the world of cultivation. Lu Qingqiu came to his senses and said, "The devil is the natural enemy of all monks, we naturally know it." Lu Chen immediately said, "It's good to know. According to my information, the plague in Daqian is not an ordinary plague, but caused by the devil." Hearing this, the two women were stunned again. How can this be? Isn't this a low-level world? How could a low-level world attract demons? Compared with the lower world, the demons prefer places with abundant spiritual energy. They have no reason to come to the lower world. Lu Chen saw that neither Lu Qingqiu nor Mu Yongzi seemed to believe it, so he continued, "You have never thought about why the plague in Daqian keeps coming back and forth, lasting for more than a year, and it is obvious that Daqian the dynasty has made various efforts, but the plague is still spreading." Lu Qingqiu said coldly at this time, "Isn't it just someone spreading the news behind my back? Daxia is still the most suspicious." Lu Chen said with a smile, "I am not so inhumane. For me, the population resources of this world are the most important resources. It is absolutely impossible for me to actively spread the plague. In fact, the reason why the plague continues to spread is because there is a devil behind it. It may be because it needs to feed on the fear and despair of the common people. I don't know much about the devil, but I believe you should know why the devil takes the initiative to spread the plague." After hearing Lu Chen's words, Mu Yongzi and Lu Qingqiu both thought for a moment. They all felt that Lu Chen's guess was correct. If there was really a demon behind it, the demon's purpose might indeed be to absorb the negative power generated by human beings' fear and despair. In the world of cultivating immortals, what the devil likes most is to create some desperate situations for monks, and then make the monks feel fear and despair, and finally die in fear and despair. After a while, Mu Yongzi asked, "How did you know that there is a demon in Daqian?" Lu Chen replied, "I can't tell you this for the time being. All you need to do is to have the devil." At this time, Lu Qingqiu said coldly from the side, "If you don't tell us how you know about the demon, how will we know whether you are lying?" Lu Chen said with a smile, "I don't need to joke about this, and the reason why I told you this is to ask you how to determine the location of the demon. When the time comes, I will deal with the demon by myself, and I don't need you. Take action." This. After hearing what Lu Chen said, the two women basically believed what Lu Chen said. If Lu Chen planned to solve the problem by himself, there was indeed no need to lie to them. In this case, there really was a demon in Daqian. Already? Mu Yongzi said, "If the plague in Daqian is really caused by the demon, you don't need to go find it. When it sees that you have dispersed the plague, it will come to you on its own initiative." The biggest purpose of the demon spreading the plague is to spread fear and despair. Now that someone has dispersed its plague, it will naturally come to trouble this person. Lu Chen thought to himself that it was so easy to find the demon, and then he only needed to keep using the exorcism flag to drive away the plague in various places in Daqian. Thinking of this, Lu Chen smiled and said, "Thank you Fairy Yongzi for telling me this." Then Lu Chen continued, "I have asked people to arrange accommodation for the two fairies. The two fairies should go over now." Having said this, Lu Chen said to the people outside the study, "Come here, take the two ladies down to rest." Hearing that Lu Chen actually called the two of them madam, the two women snorted coldly in their hearts, thinking that they would wait until their strength recovered before causing trouble for this lecherous man. After Mu Yongzi and Lu Qingqiu left, Lu Chen took a look at his body. He felt something was wrong. He had finally destroyed Dagan. The actual controller of Dagan, Lu Qingqiu, had already fallen into his hands. Why hasn't he broken through and become a heavenly being? How is this going? At this time, the system prompt sounds. The host did not obtain Daqian's certificate of surrender, nor did it completely occupy Daqian, so it is not considered to have unified the world for the time being. Lu Chen realized, okay, it seems that he has to seize the time to send troops to occupy every place in Daqian, and try to break through to the realm of heaven and human before the devil comes to trouble him. Evening. Lu Qingqiu and Mu Yongzi were sitting in the room arranged by Lu Chen. Both women couldn't sleep. They looked at the situation outside their house. There were only a few female guards guarding the house, and there were no strong men. If they wanted to escape now, they would most likely be able to escape. It's just that they didn't know that they had no intention of running away. They finally had a chance to get close to Lu Chen. If they just ran away, it would be more difficult for them to gain Lu Chen's trust in the future. However, the two women thought of another question at this time. If the demon Lu Chen said really existed, if Lu Chen did not eliminate the demon, the two of them would get rid of Lu Chen instead. Then the demon would come to find them. How are they going to fight against that demon? For cultivators, demons are natural enemies. Even weak demons may cause great trouble to cultivators. Thinking of this, the two women finally decided to leave Lu Chen alone for the time being and wait until Lu Chen had dealt with the demon. Or let Lu Chen attract the attention of the demon. With Lu Chen around, the demon shouldn't notice them. At the same time, in a certain sea area in the south, deep under the sea, there was a mass of black material. At this moment, a pair of scarlet eyes suddenly appeared in the black material. The next moment, all the creatures in the surrounding sea died, the animals turned into bones, and the plants withered. The black substance spread quickly, and the surrounding sea area also turned black. At this moment, on the sea, there was a large ship moving forward calmly. After seeing the spreading black substance, a man's voice came from the attic of the ship, "Lord Demon, we know who ruined your plan." End of chapter. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audio Wave. Chapter 573 Arriving at Dogon Kyoto. The originally calm sea suddenly became rough due to the words of someone on the big ship. Seeing that the big ship was in danger of capsizing, the man's voice came from the attic of the big ship again. "Master Tianmo, I can take you to find him." The little one knows that Lord Heavenly Demon has not recovered yet, so he specially prepared a container for Lord Heavenly Demon. At this point, the cabin door of the big ship opened, and there were hundreds of young men and women tied up in the cabin. When the young men and women saw the black sea that was higher than the ship, they were all frightened and turned pale. For a while, their cries rang through the night. At this time, black sea water suddenly poured into the cabin, and in an instant, the men and women were swallowed by the sea water. When the black water receded, only a man was still standing in the middle of the cabin. The man's eyes glowed scarlet, looking at the attic of the big ship. At this time, a young man wearing black clothes appeared on the face of the man in the cabin. The leader of Taiyin took the initiative to bend down and salute and said, "I pay my respects to Lord Demon." At this time, the man in the middle of the cabin had been taken over by the legendary demon. The demon said in a muddy voice, "I can feel the demonic energy on your body. Are you a demon cultivator?" The leader of Taiyin replied, "Yes, sir." The demon continued, "How did you find out that I am here?" The leader of Taiyin said, "When the plague appeared in the Great Dynasty, I noticed your aura, but your aura was still very weak at that time, so I couldn't determine your direction." The demon did not continue this topic. He said, "My food plate has been affected recently. Do you know who is destroying my food plate?" Upon hearing this, the Taiyin cult master instantly smiled and said immediately, "Master Tianmo, I know who destroyed your food plate. Not long ago, the Emperor of Daxia led his troops to attack Dakian, and wherever he went, the plague was driven away by him. He should be a cultivator from the advanced world of immortality." Hearing the words cultivator, the demon's eyes instantly glowed with dazzling red light. What he lacks most now is strength. If he can swallow that cultivator, then he should be able to recover a lot of his strength. Sooner or later, he will be able to leave this ghostly place with exhausted spiritual energy. In this low-level world, not to mention cultivators, even demons cannot stay. Ever since he fell into this world, he has been sleeping at the bottom of the sea. He finally woke up. It took him an unknown number of years before he met humans and began to spread the plague in Dakian. However, it is still too slow to restore strength through this method. It is not as fast as swallowing the cultivator directly. The demon then said, "Take me immediately to find the cultivator you mentioned." The corners of Taiyin cult leader's mouth raised, he bent down and said, "Yes, I will take Master Tianmo with you now." The leader of Taiyin thought that he could finally get rid of that freak. Since they hid, they have been chased by Lu Chen's people. Originally, they thought that they could keep causing all kinds of trouble for Lu Chen in secret. But what they didn't expect was that Lu Chen's people don't know what kind of skills they have learned, but they can actually sense the demonic energy in them in advance. Many strongholds of the Taiyin sect were removed by the Great Xia Dynasty, and the people of the Taiyin sect basically had no choice but to run away when they saw the disciples of Ouyang Sword Sect and Taishu Temple. The skills practiced by these two sects were very special. To restrain the demonic cultivators, the Taiyin sect was forced to hide in Dogon Lai. As a result, not long after, Daxia sent troops to attack Dakian again. Fortunately, at this time, the leader of Taiyin noticed that there was a very strong demonic energy somewhere on the sea. As an evil cultivator, he immediately guessed what caused this demonic energy. Coupled with the constant plague in Dakian, the leader of Taiyin concluded that there was also a demon in this world. The devil is the natural enemy of cultivators. As long as you tell the devil that there are cultivators in this world that you can eat, the devil will definitely follow him. Their hard work paid off, and they finally found the location of the demon and successfully got the demon to side with them. Next, all we need to do is bring the heavenly demon to Lu Chen. With the heavenly demon here, no matter how many heavenly beings are behind Lu Chen, they will not be their opponent. When he thought of this, the smile on Taiyin cult master's face became more and more exuberant. After the battle in Dangzhen City, Lu Chen took Lu Qingqiu and Mu Yongzi to the capital of Dakian. He didn't do anything to the two fairies along the way. He had just defeated Dakian, and he still had many more things to do. Even on the way to Dakian capital, Lu Chen was busy handling various government affairs in the carriage. This also made Lu Qingqiu and Mu Yongzi realize that Lu Chen was not just a lustful person, he was an aspiring person. Emperor. After more than 10 days of long journey, they finally arrived in the capital of Dakian. When the people in the capital of Dakian heard that Emperor Xia was coming, they all spontaneously walked outside the city or waited on the street. On his way to Dakian, Lu Chen introduced many policies that were beneficial to the people of Dakian, and wherever he went, he would use exorcism flags to drive away the plague in that place. This matter has already spread to the capital, and Lu Chen's public opinion in Daqian now far exceeds that of the previous Emperor Qian. Mu Yongzi was sitting in the carriage and saw a sea of people outside the city, all coming to welcome Lu Chen into the city. She smiled and said to Lu Qingqiu on the side, "How do you feel when you see this scene? You have been struggling in Daqian for so many years, but you have not been recognized by the people of Daqian. They still call you the Demon Queen. However, Lu Chen only spent less than a few months to capture the hearts of the people of Daqian." Lu Qingqiu did not speak, with a cold expression. Naturally, she felt a little uncomfortable, but it didn't matter to her. Anyway, all this was only temporary. When she solved Lu Chen, she would directly ascend the throne and proclaim herself emperor. After promulgating some national policies that are beneficial to the people's hearts and minds will come back again. Lu Chen did not stay in the carriage all the time. When he arrived outside the capital of Daqian, he got out of the carriage and sat on the horse so that the people could see what he looked like as an emperor. Usually, the emperor of Daqian sat in a carriage, and most ordinary people never knew what the emperor looked like. When the people of Daqian saw Lu Chen, they were very excited. They didn't expect Emperor Xia to look so kind. When Lu Chen arrived at the gate of the capital, Daqian's ministers had already written documents of surrender and brought their jade seals with them. At this time, Lu Qingqiu came out of the carriage and walked in front of the civil and military officials. When they saw Lu Qingqiu, the Demon Queen, some people who had met Lu Qingqiu immediately cursed. "The Demon Queen, it's this Demon Queen who has caused us such misery. This Demon Queen is actually not dead yet. Execute her! Execute her!" End of chapter. Chapter 574 Becoming a Heavenly Being. Facing the angry people, Lu Qingqiu's cold face remained expressionless. She just thought these fools were trying to show off in front of the new emperor, so she acted so angry to please the new emperor. After Lu Qingqiu took the letter of surrender from Minister Daqian, he then saluted Lu Chen, "My concubine, Lu Qingqiu, pays homage to your majesty." Lu Chen had a smile on his face, and then took the initiative to take the letter of surrender and the jade seal from Lu Qingqiu's hand. In this way, Daqian would be completely subjugated, and Lu Chen would also complete his unification and hegemony. The moment Lu Chen took over the certificate of surrender and the Daqian jade seal, white clouds suddenly gathered in the sky, and the next moment, a golden dragon phantom appeared among the clouds. Then Lu Chen's body emitted a golden light. Seeing this scene, the people of Daqian knelt down one after another. This kind of strange phenomenon has appeared. What does that mean? It means that Emperor Xia is the true dragon of this world. Greetings to your majesty, long live my emperor! Long live my emperor! The voices of the common people resounded throughout the entire Daqian capital. Seeing this scene, Lu Qingqiu and Mu Yongzi frowned. They originally wanted to get close to Lu Chen, and then wait until their strength recovered before attacking Lu Chen, but now Lu Chen actually broke through to the heavenly realm. No matter how stupid the two of them are, at this time, they have already guessed what the test is for Lu Chen to become a heavenly being. Obviously, the test for Lu Chen to become a heavenly being is to unify the world. Lu Qingqiu felt very unhappy when she thought that she had become a stepping stone for Lu Chen to become a heavenly being. At this moment, she was looking at Lu Chen with her eyes fixedly, thinking in her heart, even if this person became a heavenly being, as long as she had the strength recovery can also solve him. She couldn't bring out the strength of the creation realm in this world. It was indeed not as easy for her to kill Lu Chen now, but that didn't mean there was no chance at all. At this time, Lu Chen felt the surging spiritual power in his body, and suddenly felt very comfortable. After such a long time, he finally made a breakthrough. After becoming a heavenly being, there will no longer be any restrictions on his level of strength, and his strength will be able to increase rapidly. Lu Chen felt extremely happy when he thought of this, but when his eyes swept over Lu Qingqiu and Mu Yongzi, he suddenly thought of something, so he quickly asked the system. System, if my strength exceeds the heavenly realm, will I be able to exert my strength beyond the heavenly realm in this world, or will I, like Lu Chen and the others, be suppressed by the heavenly way in this world? This world is a world with incomplete rules. If you use power that exceeds the realm of heaven and humanity, it is likely to destroy the world. Therefore, the heavenly way of this world will inevitably suppress the strength of the host. Lu Chen frowned when he heard the system's answer. It turned out that his own strength was also limited by this world. Then if he keeps living in this world, no matter how strong he becomes, even if he becomes an immortal, he will not be able to fully utilize his strength. Just when Lu Chen was thinking this, the system suddenly continued to prompt. The host has the opportunity to complete the laws of this world through the reincarnation stone. Once the laws of this world are completed, the host will be able to directly control the entire world. From now on, this world will directly become one of the host's small worlds. Is this still possible? So this is how the reincarnation stone is used? Every time he entered the system backpack and saw the reincarnation stone, he would think about the use of this broken stone. I didn't expect the reincarnation stone to be of such great use. Only. Lu Chen continued to ask, when can I use the reincarnation stone? When the host's realm is raised to the 10,000 Dharma realm, the first layer of the seal of the samsara stone can be unlocked and the power of the samsara stone can be used. Lu Chen silently thought about the realms behind the realm of heaven and man. After heaven and man is the realm of creation, and the realm of yin and yang. After the realm of yin and yang is the realm of 10,000 laws. From this point of view, it seems that he only needs to break through 3 more times to be able to use the samsara stone. It seemed that he had to hurry up and find his wives and concubines to practice. Thinking of cultivation, Lu Chen's eyes focused on Lu Chen and Mu Yongzi again. Presumably, practicing with these 2 fairies can greatly increase your training experience. Thinking of this, Lu Chen had an idea, but he would not implement it immediately. He planned to wait until the demon was eliminated before implementing his plan. Although Lu Chen is a powerful clone, for Lu Chen, as long as it falls into his hands, it will only be his wife. So what if she is the clone of the mighty power? Now the world has cut off all the perception of the mighty power. When the powerful power finds Lu Chen, I am afraid that Lu Chen will have given birth to a lot of children for himself. After the surrender ceremony, Lu Chen directly led the Daxia army into Dakian's Kyoto. Bai Qingqing cleared out the entire Dakian palace as quickly as possible, making it easier for Lu Chen to move into the Dakian palace. While Bai Qingqing was letting people tidy up Daqian's palace, Lu Chen went directly to Emperor Qian's study. He wanted to see if there was anything interesting in Emperor Qian's study. Almost every royal family has some secrets, including the Dao royal family and the Daiyu royal family, but those secrets are not attractive to Lu Chen. Entering the imperial study, Lu Chen, under the leadership of Daqian, found the place where the secrets of the past emperors were hidden, and then looked through the secrets of the past emperors bit by bit. Late at night, the lights in the royal study room were still flickering, and Lu Chen still hadn't slept. He was still looking through the scrolls left by the emperors of Dakian. There were many anecdotes in these scrolls, many of which were related to immortals. Of course, Lu Chen didn't just read these scrolls for fun. He learned a lot about what happened in this world through the royal secrets obtained by Dao and Daiyu, and then through Dakian's royal scrolls. Among these royal secrets, the creation of each dynasty is inseparable from the guidance of immortals. Lu Chen initially thought that Dao and Daiyu were trying to create a dynasty in order to give themselves a reason to legally create a dynasty, so they found an excuse. But now think about it. Except for some insignificant small countries in this world that do not have immortal guidance, these 4 major dynasties all have immortal guidance, and these 4 major dynasties have had an important impact on the world. This shows that there is indeed a pair of hands driving change in the world. Seeing the things recorded in the Dacian royal scroll, Lu Chen thought to himself, could it be that the immortals who guided the establishment of several major dynasties were related to the system? He didn't know why, but he always felt that there was a system involved. Just when Lu Chen was distracted, suddenly, the candle light in the room swayed violently, and a gust of wind blew, making people feel a little scary. Lu Qingqiu and Mu Yongzi, who were meditating in the room at this time, also felt the sinister wind, and the two women opened their eyes at the same time. End of chapter. Chapter 575. Who are you? Mu Yongzi and Lu Qingqiu are both monks in the world of advanced cultivation. They have both seen the demon, and they have even participated in the encirclement and suppression of the demon. Some sects in the world of cultivation usually use demons as test objects in order to make their disciples less afraid when facing demons. Only by defeating the demon from the heart can you not provide the demon with too much fear that the demon needs when facing the demon. When some demons meet monks, they are often not as powerful as the monks. As a result, the monks are frightened to the point of being unable to walk as soon as they see the demons. In addition, demons can amplify the fear in people's hearts, and demons can absorb the power generated by fear. Demons can often become more powerful than the monks they encounter in a short period of time. It is precisely because of this that the first thing that sects in the advanced world of immortality have to do is to train the minds of their disciples. After sensing the aura of the demon, the two women did not feel afraid. They knew very well that if they were afraid of fear, then their fear would become the power of the demon to become stronger. At this time, the two women thought that since Lu Chen said he wanted to find the demon, it proved that he was capable of solving the demon. Now that the demon is here, all they need to do is hide behind Lu Chen. Thinking of this, the two women quickly sensed Lu Chen's location and found that Lu Chen was now in Emperor Daqian's study room. They came directly to the study room as quickly as possible. When the two women entered the royal study, they saw Lu Chen still holding the scroll and reading it with gusto, as if they were completely unaware that the demon had arrived. At this time, Mu Yongzi couldn't help but remind him, hasn't His Majesty been looking for the devil? Now that it has come to the door, doesn't His Majesty plan to do something? Lu Chen said, Heavenly Demon? Where is he? Hearing Lu Chen's question, both women felt that it was a bit outrageous. They didn't believe that this guy didn't know that the demon had come. They could all feel the aura of the demon, and it was impossible for Lu Chen not to feel it at all. In the world of high-level immortal cultivation, only cultivators from low-level small sects rarely have the opportunity to use heavenly demons to temper their minds. Generally, large sects use heavenly demons to temper their disciples' minds. Lu Chen is able to thrive in this world. He cannot be just a member of a small sect. In the hearts of the two women, they have long thought that Lu Chen also comes from a large sect in the advanced world of immortality. As a result, this guy is now pretending to be a sect. The deputy didn't know that the demon had arrived. In fact, Lu Chen had indeed sensed the aura of the demon, and his exorcism flag was already trembling crazily. Only when the devil is close will the exorcism flag behave like this. But Lu Chen was not in a hurry, he wanted to wait for the demon to come to his door in person. Seeing that Lu Chen didn't care at all, the two women quickly realized that they seemed to understand something. Maybe Lu Chen already knew that the demon was coming, but he didn't take the demon seriously at all. He said this deliberately, mainly to make the devil relax and make him think that he is just a small person. A cultivator who can't even feel the demon's devilish energy basically has no big impact on the devil. Threaten. Just when the two women were thinking this, a thick voice appeared in the imperial study room. You were the one who destroyed my food plate. This voice seemed to be transmitted directly into people's minds. For a moment, Mu Yongzi and Lu Qingqiu's heads became extremely painful. Although they had been deliberately restraining the influence of the demonic energy just now, the sound of the demon's voice appeared. For a moment, their moods changed slightly. The two women quickly hid behind Lu Chen. Now let's see how Lu Chen is going to deal with the demon. Lu Chen slowly put the scroll in his hand on the desk, then looked up at the door. There were no ferocious monsters at the door, only a young man with glowing red eyes and a group of Taiyan cult members. Lu Chen glanced at the young man, and the system instantly recognized his information. Name: none. Identity: extraterrestrial demon. Strength: creation realm. Loyalty: 0. Seeing such a brief introduction, Lu Chen was stunned for a moment. It was too simple and there was no detailed information at all. Forget it, as long as you know that the exorcism flag can deal with the devil. At this time, Lu Chen looked at the leader of Taiyan and said, I wonder why I haven't seen the leader of Taiyan for so long. It turns out that he went to be a dog for the devil. Hearing this, the leader of Taiyan was not ashamed, but rather proud. He smiled and said, It is an honor for me to be Lord Demon's dog. But you are so arrogant even when you are about to die. If you dare to go against Lord Demon, you will not end well in the end. Lu Chen said lightly, Oh, really? Seeing that Lu Chen was so calm, the leader of Taiyan was a little confused. He had long felt that Lu Chen was extraordinary and most likely not from this world. He was probably brought to this world by some major sect or some holy place for training. People who come from those places should be very aware of the suppression of monks by demons. Why is Lu Chen not afraid at all now? Could it be that he really has some trump card against the demon? It shouldn't be possible, right? There are not many things that can deal with the demon. Some large sects need to spend a lot of effort to destroy a demon. This is mainly because the demon grows too fast. At this time, the demon also noticed that something was wrong with the human being not far away. For some reason, he always felt that that human had an aura that he particularly hated. The demon then said, Human, tell me, what world do you come from? Seeing that Tianmo did not take action directly, but asked Lu Chen this question, everyone present was stunned. Didn't Tianmo always dislike nonsense and always take action directly? Why did he ask what world Lu Chen came from in the first place? Lu Chen smiled and replied, I don't know what world I come from. The leader of Taiyan frowned at this time and said, Master Tianmo asks you a question, and you answer it truthfully. How dare you say you don't know? I think you don't know how to live or die. Lu Chen ignored the Taiyan cult leader. Anyway, he would deal with this bastard later. Lu Chen asked back at this time, I am very curious, what are you extraterrestrial demons doing in this universe? What is there in this universe that you want? Hearing Lu Chen's question, the demonic energy in Tianmo suddenly surged. He seemed not to have expected that Lu Chen would ask such a question. Then the demon looked at Lu Chen fiercely, showing a vigilant expression, Who are you? Seeing the expression of Tianmo, everyone present was shocked again. Now they also really want to know who Lu Chen is, and what can make a demon so nervous. In fact, Lu Chen didn't know much about the demon, and what he just said was just to deceive the demon. The system said that the demon was an extraterritorial demon. He immediately thought about the novels he read in his previous life, so he suspected that this demon was not a species in this universe. The universe he was thinking of here did not refer to the world they were in now, but to the package. The present world also encompasses the outer universe of countless advanced worlds of immortality. Since the word outside is added in front of the demon, the possibility that this demon comes from other universes is almost very high. End of chapter. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audio Wave. Thank you.